In Heaven's Garden in Paradise, the hero regained his consciousness while sitting on a chair, and that's when he saw someone saying that Kazami Jinta died by unfortunate coincidence on his way to work. The girl asked if he really saw her beautiful. A blue-eyed girl with blonde hair stood in front of him. She wanted to ask something. She said her name was Leafa. She was the goddess of life and death. He asked again. She answered that this was where they determined which path the soul would take. After Leafa's death, she said that, for example, by reaching nirvana, one can be reborn in the same world or be reborn in another world. The hero asked what she meant. She said she was sorry to say that, but he died. He screamed loudly that yes, it was awesome and amazing. The girl was shocked by this reaction. She asked why he was so happy, and if he hit his head. He replied that it meant he didn't have to go to work anymore, and asked if that was true. The man said he could say goodbye to his job and his boss, and that was the best thing that could happen to him. Leafa said she understood and asked him not to shout now. He apologized, wondering how bad her life used to be. She said they had decided he would go to heaven. He interrupted, asking if he had reached nirvana. The girl answered yes. He asked to wait and said she wanted to be reborn in another world and that they had discussed it before. Leafa interrupted, asking what he would do there. He answered that there was only one thing he could do. Kazami said he would conquer a large number of girls and make Leafa say to wait. He said of course not, that's not the only thing. The hero talks about the status of fame, things he will never achieve, things he always desires, and he will get them all. The girl burst into laughter, asking what he brought and saying he couldn't. Kazami said he had read a short story and thought if another world like this. He answered that of course they don't even know. He will be reborn in who else. She also said that an ordinary person like him would best be reborn as a handkerchief. The small handkerchief was repeated by the hero with fear. The girl's handkerchief said that she didn't know what she had read out there, but she had to push her dreams far away and go to heaven. She said she didn't have time to waste on anything that dreamers did. Kazami shouted at her not to laugh. The man's dream and rise to the fray, everyone saw it. Leafa asked him to stop, and she asked what he thought he was doing. He asked to be sent to another world. The girl replied that it was impossible. She said that if she didn't do what she asked, it wouldn't happen. Then he will chew on her breast. She asks to wait and says that she rejects him for a reason. She says that if she sends a man to another world according to his wishes, many bad things will happen. Jinta screams that he doesn't care and asks her to give her breast. She gets angry and shouts that she is now targeting her breast. She sees the trope select button and asks if that's her. The character screamed faster to send it to another world. The girl said she couldn't. He said she would help at that time and hit his arm. He thought it was impossible. Leafa asked what the hero meant. He said with fear that he had no breasts. The girl bowed in surprise. He wondered where she could find the big-breasted goddess. He screamed, asking where she was hiding, and asked her to come out. Leafa was embarrassed. He said she needed to find her. The girl screamed that they were not small and he was an idiot. Jinta asked her to stand still and be quiet. Leafa accidentally pressed a button with her shoe. They froze. A portal started to activate and they flew down. A card with the characteristics of Cassin appeared. Gears spun. The hero rejoiced, and Leafa said it was impossible for reincarnation to another world to be happening, while the heroes were flying through the air, and suddenly Kazami was reborn in another world. The sun shone brightly. A beam of light appeared. Kazami fell to the ground, saying that this was not a pleasant way to reincarnate. He looked up at the sky in shock, seeing something like a flying dragon there. He was very surprised. The hero said that he had finally arrived in another world. He didn't feel reborn and thought maybe this was his reincarnation. He realized he felt something under his feet. It was a goblin breathing. Realizing it was a goblin, Kazami jumped back in fear and then saw that it was already dead. He thought he had killed it when he fell from above. There was a pebble lying near the goblin's hand. The hero picked it up and assumed it was a silver stone. It was quite beautiful, and he decided to keep it. He wanted to see what this window status showed. Kazami thought that if only the goddess was around, he could ask her. He thought that even though he only saw her, the indicator of his luck was definitely a bit strange. Suddenly he heard a scream. After that, he saw a donkey from above. There was a girl flying straight towards him. She landed, scattering rocks. Leafa groaned in pain. She didn't understand why she was hurt too. She fell right on top of Kazami, who was also in pain. She looked at the hero beneath her and said that he was the one who called her blue, but then corrected herself by saying that she was the wrong goddess. The next moment, she covered her underwear with her dress because she was shocked. The hero just said that she wasn't here to say that he was worried, and that's why she came here. She answered, "Of course not." And she was brought here because Kazami asked if she couldn't go back. Leafa replied that she couldn't contact the celestial world for a while. The reason is strange. She said he tried to send them a message, but the message didn't connect him to the celestial world. Kazami asked if there might be some kind of bug because he was transferred to another world against his will. The higher girl asked what bug there was. The hero said that his status was also strange, and he didn't consider the 99,99999 luck normal. Then she replied that it couldn't be like that. She said that generally normal people shouldn't see his status. She approached her face. She didn't realize what she was doing. She said she couldn't see it. Kazami said maybe it's just because of that. The girl said she couldn't see her status, but the goddess should be able to see it. He assumed it was a bug. The girl looked at it with disgust. She started crying, asking what kind of bug it was and how she could get it back. The hero answered, "Who would have thought something like that would happen?" She shouted that it was her and he was the reason. She pressed the transfer button. He thought he was the one who pressed it and asked her not to cry. He apologized and said he didn't mean any harm. To pull her in, he said it was his fault. Leafa wiped her tears. She said there was nothing more to be done. The hero asked honestly what he would do. The girl answered that everything was fine and she was sure help would come soon. She said she would just spend time waiting. He asked if that was how she got the chance to fulfill her dreams and told her to do what she wanted. Kazami hesitated. He asked if she wanted to go with him. The girl was surprised. He said that's what he meant anyway. It was her fault. Miss Goddess was dragged into this chaos, and she wanted to do something to make amends for her mistake. They exchanged glances. Leafa asked if he was sure, and said that if she was with her, she might pull her back. When help arrived, she answered that she had to go to heaven. The hero said that leaving a crying girl alone clearly contradicted his ambitions. She replied that she didn't know what he meant, and she wasn't crying. Leafa, touched, moved closer to her and said that if she insisted, she would go with her until help arrived. She said she was very curious how she would redeem herself, so Leafa joined the team. He asked once again what his name was. The hero answered to just call him Jinta. He asked if he was sure, and told him to just call him Lafa. Then he asked what they were talking about. The girl said that she would be by his side, even if only for a short while, that Jinta was very lucky. He was asked why he asked if it was because Leafa was kind. He read and embarrassedly said he wasn't serious. The hero said he turned red. All the girls said what he meant was that in this world many people knew him from all kinds of pleasures. He said whether it was geography, nature, or creatures living in this world from the basics to the most complicated, he knew everything. He gave an example that there was a small town called Honin and suggested that they should get there first. Jinta said that he really knows a lot. He answered that it's normal because he is a god. He said to ask anything to him. He wanted to know the hero was surprised but agreed. He said he had one question for the beautiful goddess Leafa-chan, and it was about the item he found here. Leafa said she felt like she was just teasing her. She handed the silver stone to her and asked if she knew anything about it. The girl hesitated and asked to see it. She said it was a magical crystal called the core. Sometimes they are left by monsters and he can know their rank from their color. Kazami was surprised. Leafa stopped him and asked if he was joking. Then he shouted that it was silver and truly amazing. He asked where he got it. The person answered that he just found it near a goblin. He accidentally killed the girl, shocked by the word. He accidentally asked if the silver color was rare. He answered that it was true. Leafa said that among the cores it was the second from the top, after the rainbow followed by gold, and this is how the wound in the core of the nuclear. He said that if he sold it. The value will be around 100,000 ren. That's about 100,000 yen. He told Jinta that it's a good job. The person replied that even after his words, he didn't feel that way. The girl said she was just trying to say that it's truly amazing to find it like that, and she should be grateful for her luck. Lifa said that in normal circumstances, she would have to go to an underground prison for months to find even one. She was surprised. She said she was lucky to find it like that, and she would never find 100,000 on the street in her life. The hero agreed. He said that if he had plenty of it, I wouldn't do it. The girl had to go. She was surprised. She asked again if it was for her and if he was sure. The girl answered that, of course. She said that he still hadn't apologized to her for what had happened, so she asked him to let her take care of it. Out of everything, the girl thanked him cheerfully. She looked at him. Jinta pondered. He said it was okay and suggested that we go to that small town or something. Leafa asked him to wait. She suggested keeping the core in her inventory to be safe and said she would teach him how to use it. Jinta asked again about the inventory they found at the gate. The girl told Jinta that this is it. She said this is the town of Chicken Heroes. Surprise, the town is located near the mountains. Jinta said that he had a very positive impression of the town. Leafa replied that the town is much livelier than she thought. In their shop they expressed their gratitude. Kazami held the money in his hand, saying that they had indeed sold it. He said 100,000 ren, as Leafa said, and seeing the money made him happier. The girl said that of course it's all thanks to the increasingly great hero. He said how great he took the stone. The girl asked if he saw anything else they could sell. Jinta said he didn't, and it was just Leafa's underwear. He suggested they find a place to sleep, and then interrogated what Jinta had just said. He replied that he had offered to find a place to sleep. The girl had previously said that the heroes heard the woman ask the man to stop calling her dear. She shouted that it was their money for the month. The man shouted back at her to shut up. Kazami asked what that man was shouting at the woman to shut up and watch, and he told her to wait. Leader answered that it was a gacha object. The girl explained that it was a machine with a stack of ores inside, and someone could draw one of them, and depending on the color, the winnings could be exchanged for some prizes. Jinta said it meant it all depended on luck. Leifa agreed and said that's why it's called a gacha object. She said among those prizes there are many prestigious things. The hero asked if anyone won there. He said that of course there are people like that, but the chances are slim. The girl said that one must be very lucky to get it. Be one of them. Jinta smiled, while thinking he asked if it's true that as long as luck is on someone's side, they can definitely win something valuable. They entered the building. Leifa asked if he was serious now. The hero agreed and said he just wanted to try it once he saw 1,000 ren for one try. The girl screamed that she couldn't, and she might get useless trash. She said that the gadget subject was very fast and addictive, and it was the most dangerous thing in the world. Kazami replied that it would be okay and asked her to trust him. She asked why he was so sure. Jinta began to explain what he meant. He said that after all he had a goddess with him. He apologized to the people present, and the people at the table laughed at what he said about the goddess. The hero said he wanted to try it once. The girl behind the construction site said that if she paid 10,000 rin, she could try it 11 times. A man approached Jinta from behind and said that if he won, he would pay 10,000. Confused, the man at the table said it was true. Leifa rolled up his sleeve. The hero refused and said that the girl behind the counter just said she understood. The man offered to start. Jinta thought that if he was lucky, Leifa said this experiment would prove everything. The hero stood in front of the machine, turned the key, and a ball fell out of the equipment. His luck so far was 999999. He opened the balloon, and everything was illuminated with light. The girl behind the counter said she had received a super prize. The hero rejoiced. The man said it was impossible. The tables were talking about what kind of man he was. Leifa mentioned that it was the rarest rainbow core of all. She thought she was dreaming. Jinta said he had told her to give it to him. She thought it was true that this was the original statistics. The worker congratulated and talked about the gift of getting the rainbow core. It was a super gift from Leviton. Levitan received the heroes joyfully as they got something really cool. There's a rumor going around that someone has a leaning man at the table. He was surprised and said he had been doing it for years. Another person said he had too, and if only he had a sword to fight the hippopotamus, it would be some trivial matter. Leifa said they seemed to be the main personalities of the city. The hero agreed. He said it really was a cool sword. The girl replied that it was USSR. Besides, Kazani was asked again. She said it was the rarest of all, and she could sell it for hundreds of millions. The hero was shocked. He said selling it would be a huge loss. The girl asked if she would sell it. Lafa said it was the sword of the hero who defeated King Doan in the past, but in the end, no one could use it, and the sword just scattered all over the world. She said she thought Jinta would never be able to use it, to which he replied that we wouldn't know unless we tried. She said she would think about what could be done with it if she couldn't use it after trying it out. Goddess said there would be a thief targeting the winner, so she would sell it and thought it was the smartest way out. The heroes thanked the waiter for bringing them food, saying it was their dessert. Pinego Leifa said happily that this was Pinego. Jinta asked if she liked Pinego. She agreed. When they arrived, Leifa fainted on the bed, saying she was full. Kazami said the food here is very delicious. The girl's skirt was a little too short, which embarrassed the hero Leifa, saying that since then she had never been able to contact the heavenly world. She said she thought she should stay here for a while. The hero thought about the goddess who was truly open. He asked what Jinta's next plan was and if she would become an adventurer. He thought about it and said that he thought it was the fastest way to improve his rank. The girl replied that the risks were quite high there too. The hero replied that he was aware of the risks. Besides, it was all for his ambition. Leifa blushed and told Jinta to be more humble, assuring him that as long as he was around, they wouldn't be in danger. She said that to make Jinta stay in this world, she would teach him everything she knew. The girl claimed that she was level 999 and also the strongest goddess. She replied that she was very happy, but her stats were somewhat similar to a goblin. They met during the day, and Leifa interrupted, saying that it was impossible and asked him to take a closer look. The girl fell from the bed in pain and tears streaming down her face. She didn't understand why she was in so much pain because of something like that. Light Punch Jinta replied that it might be a bug from the forced teleportation of the goddess in bed, turned and said that she was no longer interested. The hero realized that she was offended, so he decided to go outside. The receptionist asked where she was going like that. Jinta late at night replied that she had just suffered from insomnia. She thought about how difficult it was to calm down when there was a girl sleeping next to her and no more bugs. She said she would take a walk and would be back soon. The hero exited the building and walked down the street. He mentioned that since he had some time, he should try using Levitan. He was thinking about what else he should register when suddenly he saw a security guard who was just sleeping and decided he should probably decide that this was good enough. A good place. He opened the vault item and took out Levitan from there. The hero thought that this vault was indeed useful. He drew his sword from its sheath. The hero said that even though he said he couldn't use it, he could use it for now. He remembered that he had seen some sword skills. Jinta has decided to try the dark fiber first and thinks it's somehow scary to suddenly fight a monster. He decides to target the big black stone. He's not sure how to use it, but wonders how it feels. Suddenly a pattern of light forms under the hero's feet. There's a gust of wind around him, drawing a design near the sword. Jinta is confused. The dark fiber, which is several times larger than the hero, moves forward and attacks, knocking the hero back. He thinks it came out quite easily. He realizes this is the magic, like a loud growl. Jinta notices that there is someone where the stone is. It's a dragon. The hero realized that it wasn't a stone. Looking towards the characteristics of the creature, he realized that it wasn't a stone. Furthermore, he thought of killing the behemoth with one powerful strike of this sword. It was so terrifying he realized that there was something shining in the darkness. It was another silver core that he thought he could get a large amount of money for selling the horns and scales. He was on his way back home. Jinta said that his whole body was very slow and apparently he had spent too much mana for that magic. He thought he would be able to get a good night's sleep thanks to it. When he entered, he asked where he had been. There were tears in his eyes. Jinta replied that he went out for a walk. The girl shouted at him, asking why he left without saying anything. Worrying, the hero apologized and asked if something had happened. The girl looked sad. She answered that she thought Jinta had left her and gone somewhere alone. She asked with a smile if that was the reason she was crying. She replied that she wasn't crying. Kazami said that Leafa was too sensitive, so she couldn't worry, and she wouldn't leave her. The girl got angry and explained that was why she said she wasn't crying, asking him to stop stroking her. She shouted that she wasn't crying at all and asked if he was sure he had seen everything correctly. Jinta asked why she didn't just accept it. Leafa said that anyway she didn't dare to go again without telling her anything. She replied that she already understood and asked her to stop pushing suddenly. Because of the push, Jinta started to fall on the bed and Lore right behind him. They fell in such a way that they kissed each other, both very confused, not realizing what happened. So blushing and startled, she said that it wasn't like she thought. She started to run away, Jinta confused. The girl was lying in her bed, and Kazami looked at her. He remembered her saying she thought he had left her. He thought about the fact that she suddenly appeared here with him, and her level dropped to level 1 because of a bug. She must be scared. Now it's morning. Leafa wakes up with an unsatisfied face. The hero prayed for him. "Good morning," he said, mentioning that his memory seemed blurry, and asked if something happened last night when he returned. Hesitant, he suggested that he should wash his face for now while having tea. The girl said she had decided to help Jinta. She interrupted, saying she would help Jinta become an adventurer. She mentioned that, in the end, she didn't know when she could go back and asked Jinta to help her forever, which didn't seem right for him. Jinta said he was fine with it, while Leafa mentioned that she was even more against it and asked to let her help a little. The hero replied that he knew a lot about the world and it would play a big role. He asked if that was true. The girl asked to give her hand. Surprised, but reaching out, Leafa grabbed her hand and suggested with a smile that they try together. The hero agreed, and the girl interrogated whether he really defeated the hippopotamus alone. He said he was joking, and the hippopotamus was very strong. He said that even the famous crescent moon, the Alliance can't handle it, and Jinta won't defeat it alone. She extends her horn at it and says that it's the horn she took from it. The girl is confused. She sees the horn is very big, and there's no doubt it's a hippopotamus horn. She realizes that it's serious and she really defeated it. I asked how she did it. Kazami said she used magic from the sword. She said she tried it on a random rock and it was like an explosion. And then the girl asked if she meant to say that she could use the sword. She answered positively, and there was no problem at all. Goddess said it was strange, and usually they couldn't even take it out of its sheath. She handed it to Leafa. The hero was surprised when he thought he was pulling it out calmly. The girl asked what he was going to do. He replied that he was thinking of selling the horn, and the others he said he would go with her. They ended up at a store. The woman working there was shocked that he had killed a hippopotamus and done it alone. She said it was unbelievable, but the horn and scales were real. She apologized and said she couldn't buy it, and it was better for him to go to the guild. Jinta interrupted the woman, saying that if she reported the task correctly, she would be rewarded properly. Leafa mentioned that now that she brought it up, the woman said that nonetheless, she gave them a report on the material evaluation, and it would help them when they reported the mission. The hero thanked Leafa and also offered to buy the hero some other clothes, asking why she said that because it smelled like cinders. She was surprised and said she could have told her earlier. She offered to make him handsome. Jinta sniffed his sleeve and thought it must be from the magic. The hero changed his clothes. The shopkeeper said it looked very good on him. He asked again. He said that it was Aliafansi clothing, and lately this kind of appearance is considered quite fashionable among young people. The girl asked Leafa what it was like. She said that this was the first time she had the opportunity to wear something like this and asked if it looked strange. The girl hesitated. The salesgirl asked her if she didn't look cool. The boy imagined Leafa saying that it seemed like the clothes were made for men, and she still smelled a little, so it turns out the problem was not the clothes, but he thought Leafa was embarrassed to say he looked cool. The hero was also shyer than the shopkeeper said how happy it was to be young outside the window. Some people were watching the heroes. One told the other to look at them looking towards Levitan and discussing that it was quite good he brought. Jinta said HP increased by 3000, MP increased by 3000, ATK increased by 2000 plus 3002 magic levels. Leifa responded by just thinking, saying that defeating Behemoth alone was already strange. She explained that these stats are 10 times higher than the normal status of this sword. The hero was surprised. The girl took the sword in her hand and asked how the hero could see its characteristics, and said it was indeed 10 times less than hers, and wondered why Jinta asked if it had anything to do with her luck. She said that usually luck does not affect the status of equipment in any way, but yes, her unlimited luck might have something to do with this phenomenon. She asked in surprise what she meant. The girl replied that it was a bug. The hero said he still didn't understand. Leifa said she might understand keeping her sword, though she answered that she understood. She asked what he planned to do next. Jinta hesitated for a moment. The girl said she actually wanted to go somewhere. The worker greeted the heroes when they arrived at Gacha. Jinta fought everywhere. Leifa asked if everything was okay and said she wanted to try it too. She asked if she wanted to knock something here. The girl answered, of course, and actually she was still aiming yesterday. She pointed her finger. Jinta saw a house by the lake and asked about it. The girl said it was very important. Leifa said they couldn't keep staying at the inn. She also asked if he realized that this gift was a gold class. He said they wouldn't get it easily, and he only had 1 luck. The girl said they wouldn't know until they tried. She really asked him just once, and he had done this before, so he gave her the money. Leifa was very happy, she said, before she tried it here. She reached out to hug the girl, who didn't understand. She said she would share her luck and told her to hug her, saying she didn't want to, and she must be thinking something inappropriate. She said she didn't want her suspicious power and would show her the real power of the goddess. 10 minutes passed. He shouted, asking once again. He said once more, and he would do it from here. Jinta asked if he was stupid or what he was saying. This was the 10th time. He said just once, and what kind of trash did he win? Leifa said it was a gift. He won 4 pebbles from the plain, 3 mossy cloths, 2 sticks to draw on the ground with, and 3 old handkerchiefs. The hero answered that it was just ordinary trash. He asked if he was sure it wasn't just a regular gacha addiction, and asked him to honestly tell him if he had become addicted. The girl said it wasn't really love. When asked if she minded trying it, she said that anyway they just wanted the house and it didn't matter who drove her out. When asked if that was it, the girl reluctantly answered yes. She said she didn't seem to be happy about it. She said she understood how much she wanted to feel the feeling of victory. Leifa said that's not the point. She thought if she won by love. The girl said that actually it was her house. It's her house. Didn't she say she might say something like that? The hero replied that he would not say such a thing, and asked if he was now trying to impersonate him. He grabbed his shoulder and said he would do it. Never say cruel words like that, he offered if he won to stay there with both of them, feeling embarrassed, but agreed. Jinta felt embarrassed and said it sounded wrong, and the company employee congratulated them. Jinta said he was wrong and it was not a big deal at all. It sounded like the woman was saying they were the same visitors. The hero said they were. He said it was an amazing beginner's luck. The hero asked if he said it because it was the first time he tried it. The girl answered yes. She said that trying it out had become a common thing for those who tried it for the first time. He asked if they wanted to get a house by the lake. The hero agreed. He said when he could see the gods had tried it. He handed over 1,000 ren and asked for a single try. The worker asked if he was sure. He said he would recommend putting in 10,000. Beginner luck did not come twice. He replied that he would win as usual and asked for a single try. He replied that he hoped he would win. Jinta said he would definitely win. Leifa told him to do his best and asked him to get the gold. He said he would just disable his capsule. The girl kept telling him to try his best. Another worker said that if he wins again, they won't get the grand prize and asked if it's really okay, to which he replied not to be foolish, that it's normal. He apologized to Leifa and said it seemed like he had done something wrong, and a yellow stone fell out. He asked her to show him. The girl said it was gold. The hero was shocked and said he had won. He showed the stone to the missing officer, who was in a faint state. The hero tried to shout to her, but the house by the lake was obtained. Jinta said he never thought he would win his house. Lifa shouted that the Thay would take them to the inn. Coachman told the kids they were very lucky. He said that these plains couldn't be crossed until yesterday because the hippopotamus dragon hero asked if everything was okay now, who answered, of course, and he heard that he had been killed. Jinta smiled. He asked if Liafa had heard what they had just talked about. She looked sick and looked out of the train. The hero asked what was wrong with her, who answered that she was fine. She said she was just a little dizzy and very travel-sick on the train. Jinta said maybe it's better to walk. Suddenly the horse jumped and the carriage shook. The hero asked what was going on. The coachman, frightened, told them they were surrounded by people and instructed the child inside the carriage to come out and do something. Jinta came out and apologized to the young man, saying they saw him win a house in a gacha, so they decided to follow him. The hero thought what kind of strange type this was. He asked if he understood correctly that the man asked him to give him his property. The man said damn, he didn't care about the house in the lake. He pointed his finger at what he wanted. He said he wanted the magical sword. Kazami the hero was surprised because he knew about this sword. The boy asked if he thought no one would notice when he wore it openly. He said he didn't know about others, but he wasn't blind, and they would make a lot of money by selling it for a large sum of money. Others turned to the first person. He grabbed Liafa and asked her what she thought of the little girl, and added that she was quite pretty and they could have fun with her. Liafa responded that she was fine and she was sure they would have fun with her. She said to her that she didn't think she would stare at her without screaming in fear, that it was good and she liked the strong girl. Jinta said that wasn't the point, but he was really seasick. The man told the hero to give the key to Lake House for him, too, and the man was confused. The villain said they just needed it, that the lake house was a great place to escape from the Jinta and have fun with the body. Pointing to Liafa, he told Kazami not to worry, and they would take care of this girl. The hero said they just wanted his sword. At first, the man agreed and said it was a pity Jinta refused and called them idiots. The bandit was angry. He said that the hero seemed not to care about her. Life was completely different for Kazami as she was surrounded, and she reached for her sword. Lifa screamed at her as one of the robbers asked if they should be wary of this magical sword. Another said they didn't need to be afraid, and that it was just a piece of trash that couldn't even be taken out of its sheath, and the only value it had was as an antique. Jinta drew his sword from its sheath. He swung it, taking advantage of the distraction. The bandits were shocked by what happened, as the hero said. Home and Liafa said they would stay at her house and attack. The ground began to crack and reach people. Their team divided into two. One said in surprise that the hero had broken the ground. The other said it wasn't him at all. Talking about Jinta, he thought how foolish they were. He asked the robber if he said he wanted the sword and the house, one of them together. The other started to run away in fear as they fled. They shouted apologies. The hero sighed. He told Liafa that it was over. He looked at her almost in tears. The coachman emerged from behind the tree and congratulated Jinta on his victory. He said that the girl was very weak before, and now he was amazed by her face. He asked if she was scared. The girl answered firmly. He asked if she thought she would be kidnapped and taken away from her. She answered yes. He said he didn't know he would do it. He didn't admit it again. He remembered his words that the house and Liafa would remain his. The girl became embarrassed. Jinta asked what's wrong. He said it's nothing, and thanked her while holding her hand. The hero suggested that she leave, and said he would ask her to drive slower so she wouldn't get too drunk on the journey. The girl said that now that he reminded her, she felt sick again. Liafa asked if there really was a house in such a remote area. Jinta replied that it was what the old coachman said, so it must be somewhere. The girl told him to see if it pointed to a house. She said there was a lake nearby, and the hero was amazed at how clean and bright it was. The girl said it was striking. Jinta asked if she liked it, and she replied that she really did. She said she had always dreamed of a house like this. Liafa said the air in the forest was very clean. She said to just look at the view while looking out the window. The hero surprised them by saying that you must not often see something like this. He said that there is nothing like this in Japan. He said that it's a house with a free roommate. Dragon girl called him stupid and asked if he thought it was one of the dragon's features roaring towards Leafa. She was scared, fell back and told Jinta to do something quickly. As she had already said, indeed she said comfortable of course saying do something, but suggesting that he look at the dragon's characteristics and said that it's level 16 level. The hero was slightly taller, so he thought he could do something. Suddenly he realized it was a little child. I asked what level he was now because he said slightly taller. He answered that it was 18. The girl was asked again. She said yes, she had just slain Behemoth. She had just reincarnated yesterday and she was already level 18. The boy apologized beforehand and said it wasn't because he wanted to be violent towards the child, but he had no other choice. He said he wouldn't let anyone eat it because he couldn't let her eat it. The dragon lowered itself gracefully. The hero was puzzled, not understanding what pose this was. The dragon made some sounds. The hero interrogated and apologized, saying he didn't do it. I don't understand the dragon. He saw no hostility in his eyes and wondered what Jinta meant when Leafa called him. He asked if he had lost, shouting why he was asking such a thing, especially since he himself was hiding on the second floor. He kept asking what was happening, asking her to come down for a moment and see. The girl said it was amazing. He asked if that was the way the dragon swore loyalty. Kazami asked if it was true. He replied yes. The surprised hero girl asked how he did it, and he honestly replied that he didn't do it. Leafa, who didn't know, said maybe she saw her fire and thought it was her mother after all. It was a fire dragon. Jinta replied that it was impossible. His reason was so stupid. He said that if you think about it, where did the baby dragon come from? It came from the beginning and alone. He asked the dragon if it was lost, sounding frustrated. Leafa asked what they would do with the dragon. She said that it seemed quite weak and gentle now. The hero agreed and said she was right. She asked if someone took a closer look. Wasn't it kind of funny? Jinta agreed, jokingly asking what should be done. He thought she looked like a child asking to keep a kitten. He answered that he thought it was okay to keep it, at least until they could find its family. Leafa asked if she was sure. She said while hugging the crazy dragon that if that's what she wanted then she was fine and nothing could be done. Jinta thanked her for her permission, saying that now they had their headquarters, they could finally start the adventurer's life. She said they would do it only with clothes, food, and dragons. Leah was still sleeping next to him. He didn't understand why they were sharing a bed. He started to remember what they did yesterday. He remembered it after they cleaned the house, exploring the neighborhood with the dragon. It was already night. He said there was only one bed. The girl answered that it seemed so. The hero said he would sleep on the sofa in the living room. Leah said to wait. She said that the bed was big enough, and she was sure they would fit together without any problems. She interrupted Jinta's thoughts, thinking that two people sharing a bed was something she imagined. She said she should be responsible for doing such a thing to her, thinking it was something like this. In fact, Leafa fell asleep right away, and her mind slowly drifted into a sad darkness. She woke up and thought she was playing with a man's innocent heart. She heard the girl also woke up. She said she was hungry, and there was fruit on the table. She said it was the same fruit from Pinoy, and asked where she found it. Jinta replied that she found it yesterday in the forest. She said that Hee-chan thought it tasted good, so she took some for her. Leafa asked about Hee-chan and who that was. Jinta answered that Hee-chan was a baby dragon. She was a fire dragon, so he called her Hee-chan. The girl thought it was a very simple name that the hero said, because for today's plan, she wanted to go back to the city of Honan for a while. Leafa asked if that was the problem, so she wanted to try her luck in the gacha again. She said she would go too. She answered no. The hero said that they really forgot themselves with this house, but they still need to confirm their report. She asked if that wasn't the problem. She asked if it was true that they were going to the guild. She said that's right. Leafa said it was true that they had to leave as soon as possible. They came here by train yesterday. It will take half a day to walk back, but Hee-chan's voice interrupted Jinta. The hero looked at him and asked if he wanted to say he would drive them. He said yes. They were delighted. Jinta said that riding their dragon they would soon be there. Leafa thanked Hee-chan. They went ahead to harness the dragon. The hero was surprised that he couldn't fly, but said that even so they would get there quickly and beautifully. Leafa mentioned that Hee-chan is still too young. He will acquire flying skills when he is a little older. Jinta replied that it is clear to him, and he hopes to see him fly soon. He told Leafa that she looked pale somehow and asked if she was okay. She answered that she was fine. She said that except for some pine trees she ate while climbing back out, the hero was asking her to hold on a little longer. She said they were almost at the gate and only a few more guards were left at the gate. Jinta apologized and said they wanted to go to the city. They saw their dragon and were scared. The hero asked if they could enter for a moment. The guard, afraid, said they couldn't. Kazami said he was sure because of Hee-chan, and he didn't think about it. He apologized to the dragon and asked if he could wait for them here. He gave him Pineo and asked him in return to be kind. Goodbye until they return. Another guard asked if Jinta could command the dragon, who answered that he wouldn't take orders even though he listened to most of his instructions. The guard said that a dragon taking orders from a human was unlikely. He was asked if they understood human speech and said that judging by its size, this one is definitely still young. He said that he reached a point where a dragon couldn't be too smart. Suddenly, Hee-chan released the iron shirt from his head with fire. His hair got stuck. The fire burned and he screamed loudly. The other guards said that the dragon seemed to understand him perfectly. Jinta said that you can't burn someone's hair, and he's a naughty hero girl, and Leafa was walking down the city street. She said that the dragon itself is a monster class considered by most people as a natural enemy of humanity. Kazami thought explaining why the guards reacted like that. He said that they had just brought and placed one of them right in front of the gate. The entire city is in a panic. The girl replied confidently that she knew from the beginning that she just wanted to show off and indeed, a little kid like her. She asked where the guild actually was while stroking the girl's cheek. She muttered something that she said she didn't understand. Leafa said the guild was on this street right next to the item data hall. The boy interrupted, saying that they were precisely getting the item next to them. The girl asked what was going on, and the hero replied that there was nothing. He said it was because they were here, they could stop by this hall later. She replied that basically she didn't mind either after seeing the signboard. The hero said that this award is not as grand as before, and maybe it's his fault for saying so. If that's the case, maybe they shouldn't have come here. He heard Jinta crying out to Leafa, telling her not to start whining. He said he would let her play once, only asking her not to cry and asking how long she had been waiting. The girl screamed that it wasn't her. They saw the girl crying in front of them. The hero asked Leafa if this was really the gambling hall and why there was a little girl here. She replied that they wouldn't know until they asked. She told the girl her name was Leafa and asked for her name. The girl said her name was Eruli. Eruli asked if anyone knew why she was crying. Eruli answered that there was a prize here that she wanted. No matter what she said, it was impossible for her to win it. Leafa said that no matter how much money she spent, all she would get was garbage and it would be difficult for her for sure. Jinta thought he had found the same spirit. He asked Eruli what kind of gift he wanted. He pointed to the brave Yoichi bow. He was amazed at the bow. The hero asked if he wanted to give it to someone. The girl answered that no, it was her father's bow. He last asked if he came here today with his father. Eruli answered that her father was killed by a hippopotamus. Jinta asked if that was the problem. Is a reminder he thought it happened long before he arrived in this world. Eruli's father faced this armed hippopotamus and lost his bow at some point. The bow was randomly picked up and changed hands several times, finally ending up in the hands of the owner of the gambling house. Eruli said he had been looking for it for a long time and finally found it. Leafa told him not to worry. She said that Jinta's brother would get it. He bowed to her in a single attempt. The girl asked if this was true, to which he answered that the girl should not rush to give hope to others. Leafa asked if he meant he couldn't do it. Toof called her stupid and told her to consider that he had won it. The employee at the arcade welcomed the heroes, informing them that they had decided to visit them today as well. mentioning that she had come for the grand prize. She said she came for the super rare Mighty Yoichi gold core. She mentioned to look at his revenge from yesterday. Ali said that Leafa's sister was really cool, and Jinta was surprised that he would play. After a while, he felt crushed because he lost the hero, wondering how it was possible to draw so many feathers. He said something was wrong, and this gacha was definitely zagged. Jinta advised against making strange accusations. He said seriously that he could see and he would disable it himself. The girl screamed that she still had one last capsule left. She got a 2,000 Ren Leafa food coupon for the month. Leafa said she got her first normal gift. She hugged Jinta, saying she did it and succeeded. Eruli also said she did it, and Sister Leafa was an amazing hero. She told them to stop and that it wasn't even what they needed. Eruli also urged not to give up on the mood. The girls said they would then go eat something delicious with the coupon. She wondered why she had to stay here alone. Eruli shouted at her. Jinta's brother told her to try harder. Leafa also told her to stay there. The hero agreed and told them to trust him. They said they believed and left, wishing her luck. She decided she would win the bow quickly and join them. The workers greeted her again. She saw that the machine was getting bigger. She said she preferred to play a regular machine. She was told that it was a regular machine. The worker was surprised when he asked if he would play the machine. The man agreed and asked if it was still worth 1,000 Rin to try. Another worker said that the machine was filled with over 5,000 empty capsules. He replied that there must be some capsules with normal prizes. He said, of course there are. He said he would play right then, and this time he had a reason why he couldn't back out. One of the girls said she had a bad feeling right now. Eruli asked Leafa if she thought Jinta would succeed. She replied, of course. And if he's good at everything, that's his luck in the gacha. They watched as Eruli was very surprised when Leafa said it seemed she was done. Eruli ran towards her shouting. The goddess asked what's next, wondering. The hero said it's impossible he'll be welcomed there again. Leafa asked what she had done, so she asked about her bow and if she had won it. F replied that she almost forgot. She handed the bow to Eruli and said it's for her. She asked how it's for her and if this is the bow she wanted, so the girl held it. Bowed to her, smiling, she said it's really her father's bow. Leafa asked her if it's good. The girl said yes as she turned to her older brother Jinta and younger sister Leafa, thanking them. They bid farewell to the girl as the hero said he wondered how Eruli-chan would return alone and what if she encountered goblins or other difficulties. The girl replied that she was an elf. Besides, she asked the goddess again, explaining that elves were mostly very good spellcasters and also great archers. Jinta was surprised. Leafa urged her not to delay, and that Hee-chan was waiting for them, so they had to hurry home. They hesitated, the hero squeezing the girl's cheeks, saying that saying this now would be more appropriate if they went straight to the guild because they planned to come here not to play gacha. The girl expressed her gratitude to the heroes for waiting for her to extend her guild membership certificate. It was Carla Milan, the assignment officer that Jinta got. Excitedly, she said that she was now officially an adventurer. Carla instructed her to make an effort not to lose it. She asked if her boyfriend wanted to check in today. Leafa asked if it was about her. She said she didn't need to and that she was a goddess after all. The staff members awkwardly smiled. She offered to handle the tasks they mentioned. Jinta thought it was the smile of a true professional. Carla said they were here to confirm the report of the murder of the hero hippopotamus. She asked if they were both representatives of the group working on the task and if she understood correctly. Jinta asked what group that was and what they meant. They were confused. She shouted, asking if they were doing it on their own. She shouted that to complete this task, a group of adventurers ranked B or higher, and at least number 40 gave her the material that fell after she killed Behemoth. The girl said it was impossible and that it was the original giant horn, and there must be some mistake. The hero said he also had a material evaluation report. Carla saw Mrs. Lean's signature on it. She said that it just means that all the material is truly authentic, and Mrs. Nyanya's report has never been wrong. But she thinks that the shopkeeper seems to have a high reputation, as she suddenly realizes that it's Mrs. Carla, who's still asking how can just one person She said that killing a monster among these monsters should not be possible. Heroes. Ask if that's enough to get a reward for the task. The girl replied that there should be no problem in that regard, but she wants to refuse. Carla said that the task to kill Behemoth is not sponsored by the guild, so they have to get all the rewards directly from the client, and in this case, Mr. Weig Lvov. Jinta approached to ask if they could get it here. Leifa thought about what she would say about him when suddenly the man dropped it. He asked the hero if he wanted to join his group. Another man objected and said, "You will join his group." Another man named Jinta. A girl approached the hero and told him to forget about those smelly old men and join them so he wouldn't regret it and become their only man. He was surprised when Jinta actually asked him what he should do. Right now, he's being approached by other girls. They're asking if he wants to go with them to the nearest underground prison. One of them answers that he doesn't even know Leifa is sad sitting on the floor. He reaches for her hand and pulls her and tells her that they will go. The hero asks to wait and says that they haven't heard anything about the client. She says that the Lion House is a famous elf family, and they live in the northern forest from here. She says she's excited here like an idiot, and it's hard to see. The hero asks her what's wrong, and if she's angry about something. Leifa answers that she's not angry. She says she's never been angry in her life. She says that of course it's good. Everyone in the guild is discussing that she's angry. Jinta asked Leal what made her angry. She replied that she had already said she wasn't angry. She looked ahead and asked if Eruli-chan was there. The girl saw the dragon and was very scared. She screamed at Hee-chan to stop. She broke sharply in front of the girl, causing her to fall. The hero apologized to her and said that they seemed to have scared her. Eruli mentioned that it was a younger brother and a younger sister. He also said they were traveling with a dragon, and it was very cool. Jinta thanked him and asked if he lived here. The girl replied that she lived here and that her village was in the forest. She thought about the fairy village and Eruli. He asked the girl if she knew the lioness. She said they had business with her. Weig Lvov agreed, adding that she was their village chief. She said she would take them to the village and show them the shortcut they found in the village of the Lvov family. Jinta said that the elves were very kind. She thanked Eruli-chan and said that they saved time because of her. She laughed. The girl said the village head lived in a house with a red roof. She said she would go back and show the onions to her mother. The hero said goodbye. Eruli asked if she could and asked her to bow. She was surprised. She said she couldn't do that. She bowed awkwardly. She said it was okay. That's how the girl whispered her thanks to Jinta for the onions. Her father kissed her cheek. Ali thanked her younger brother and sister. They were surprised. Early in the morning, while humming softly, he saw the hero and was surprised to see that Leus had a stone face. He said he was sorry and asked why Hee-chan was sleeping at the village chief's house again. The heroes were greeted by the girl who said she was the village chief's daughter and her name was Kina. She said her father would be coming soon and asked them to wait here. Leifa told the hero how nice the girl was, and he agreed. He said her breasts were also big. Q asked if he should add milk. Jinta said yes, and more. He agreed. He asked her if she liked to adventure, and she said yes. When Singa entered, he apologized for making the heroes wait. He said he was glad to meet them, and that he was the village chief. Why was Gon not there? He said he was sure Mr. Jinta was in front of him, and they had already received a report from the Hero Federation. The heroes agreed. The man offered to talk about the reward. He looked at his daughter. Leifa wondered what they would give. He assumed the house was expensive, maybe made of gold. The village chief said that destroying the hippopotamus has been a long-time wish of their family. He said he decided to give what he loves most, his beloved daughter Kina, to the heroes. Leifa questioned whether the gift was his daughter, and Weig answered yes. He said that Quina was a good girl, and for the adventurous bride, she had a good education. Leifa was surprised. Quina said that she was an expert in bow and wind magic. She said she would do anything to help. The young lady said there was nothing special about her, but she hoped she could be useful. The village chief mentioned that long ago, a lion family encountered a monster that destroyed their homeland. He said that they were completely helpless and lost many of their people, including Eruli's father. Eventually, They fled and settled here. He said that's why he decided what he would do if a hero were to kill the hippopotamus. He decided to marry his own daughter to him. Leifa was angry when she asked why Wig said that. Unfortunately, they had suffered a crushing defeat before, but they had to do something to prevent this tragedy from happening again, she said. Therefore, they relied on him, saying that Jinta was a great adventurer who could defeat Behemoth and his genes would surely make their family stronger. Leifa was even angrier. The hero said that even though he said that, what made him think that Quina would agree? The village chief said that no one was talking about an immediate marriage and a simple engagement was enough. He suggested taking her to Patty's as a start. Jinta thought about how suffocating this death grip felt, and that they didn't even ask for her opinion. She took it, feeling terrified. Wig said this was his determination. She asked Mr. Wig to take care of his daughter. He finally agreed and said to give her to him. The goddess shed tears as the three of them walked with Quina holding the hero's hand, who called her Jinta-sama. He replied that he was just Quina and could leave without guilt. Leifa looked sad. Quina said she was his future wife and offered without formality. The goddess asked about a wife. He said not to get a good prize, for example. They had dumped some useless girls. The village chief's daughter nervously laughed and asked who she was to goddess Leifa. Leifa replied that she and Jinta then exclaimed that she said it was her mother, Quina, calling her mother-in-law in surprise. Leifa got angry. Quina said she didn't care whether she was a mother, a lover, or just a bed warmer. She was sure Mr. Jinta would choose her. The goddess answered as if she cared about her and watched over her. The hero asked if that was enough, and since when did they decide for him. Quina agreed and said that the initiative should come from her master. She said that was not what she meant. Quina agrees to ask Leifa if she really dislikes Quina. Leifa responds that she never said such a thing, and is happy she found a beautiful bride. She is puzzled when the village chief's daughter asks what Quina will do. Quina says she is thinking of going on a mission to Logro City, and it doesn't seem far, so she offers to pick up Hee-chan and walk. They pick her up, and the heroes end up in Logro City. Jinta says this city is much bigger than he expected. He wants to offer something to Leifa when suddenly his stomach growls. He says he hasn't eaten anything since morning, except for Pinego. Jinta asks if she is hungry. Quina said that they would feed their master, pointing to one direction and saying that there seems to be a nice seafood restaurant there, then pointing in another direction and saying that there seems to be a popular meat restaurant there. Quina suggested that their master go and eat the meat alone and see if anything grows. They replied that they can see why their eyes are so dead, as the saying goes, "We are what we eat." They turned to the house at the same time the latter said she didn't mind eating meat. She instructed Leifa to lead the way. She was delighted and said to give it to her. She told them to follow her, and she knew what to feed. The heroic man told Quina that they would go there another time. She agreed at the restaurant. She asked Jinta to say to open her mouth as requested to wait, and said she could do it herself. Leifa got angry seeing Quina being fed by her spoon and asked if it tasted better. Quina said she didn't know and asked to let her eat normally. She shifted her attention to the silent Leifa and said it was an unusual sight. She was approached by the village chief's daughter who thought Leifa wanted her to feed her. The hero asked in amazement if this was true and said he would tell her at once. The goddess screamed that it was not at all and why she wanted such a thing. She fed her with her fork and asked how she was doing. She answered shyly that she didn't know and preferred to eat alone. Jinta asked why he was so happy. Quina said it was very delicious. She said that Leifa looked away and her cheeks turned red. Jinta shouted to stop watching them. Quina said she had just met him today, but she already understood everything. She asked the master not to worry about her and Leifa, saying she thought they would be friends. Quina said it could be understood, and she had already studied it. She thought it was psychological. The older goddess said she knew something, and also mentioned that elves live longer than humans and grow slower. Quina looked young, but she might have been about the girl stopped talking after seeing the creepy expression on Quina's face. The latter asked if she wanted to say something. The goddess replied, "No, it's okay, the meat here is delicious." The girl informed Jinta that she still held the lowest adventurer rank G, and she doubted there would be a suitable quest for her. She said she knew it, and it was one boring thing to be asked by heroes if killing Behemoth was considered an achievement. Anaya, the secretary of the Logro Adventurers Guild, replied that of course it was important, but the rules stated that you had to complete at least 10 quests to increase your rank. She asked if there were quests where you could fight. Anaya replied that there was one quest here from the Trade Federation. She said that it seemed that goblins had been disrupting the transportation of goods lately. Jinta replied that it was much more interesting. He saw that it required 2 or more adventurers, and the conditions were not suitable. Kina said she would later register as an adventurer. She asked if she was okay with it, and answered okay. Then Thea replied that she was willing to be anything for her, whether it be a bride or an adventurer, calling her his little sister. She replied that she was 2 years old and called him her brother. The hero said that something even made him uncomfortable, and it seemed like she was overdoing it. Tat asked her to stop, saying she wanted to be an adventurer too. Kina asked Jinta if he had taken that quest. He replied yes, and that he had taken the quest for 3. He said that basically, Leifa couldn't register that one. He said something about being alone with the girl. He asked if it was okay. She said she was fine with it, but could she handle it? He asked Leifa if she knew how to fight, adding that this was not a child's game. Jinta quietly asked if her goddess power had recovered, but she answered in the negative form. The girl looked upset as the hero told Quina not to worry and that her task wasn't too difficult. Quina replied that it's okay if Jinta says so. She said that he's very kind. Leifa suggested that they prepare themselves. The hero asked if they were ready. Elphys replied that they weren't quite ready and they needed to find a weapon for Leifa. She said that she could become stronger here, even though it was actually her first time here. Jinta was surprised they were in a lottery again. Kina pointed out their target. She said it was the perfect item for Leifa, who didn't know how to do anything. It was a staff of the priestess that the goddess said was good in words, but asking if he thinks it's that simple. Aleste said that you can get stuff like that for free here, and how great the world is to have a one-stop shop. The hero thought he reminded her of someone who Leifa said seemed to know nothing about this harsh world, and she was a naive girl with simple thoughts, and these are serious things that Quina asked what she was talking about. The goddess asked if she had ever heard and said it was called Gicha. She said it was something that destroyed the fate of people. Jinta thought it was the cry of a loser's soul, that Aleste seemed to have a lot of bad luck. The hero sang that if luck was truly won, and when they stepped out onto the field, they would definitely step on those who shouted at them not to. He said that now they would decide who was better. Kina agreed and said she accepted the challenge. They turned to the hero, who told them to find out for themselves. The woman Ellen said that she would soon turn that money into a mountain of treasure and let them watch. Jinta agreed. The employee said he listened to Quina, and he stood there not knowing what to do. Leifa approached him and told him that he had to pay the first officer and then pull the lever. He replied. After a while, the elf woman approached Jinta. She asked what was wrong. She said with frustration that she couldn't win that damn rod. She said that she had another rare item to win, and it wasn't too bad. The girl got excited and asked if it was true that at least not all the trash was here, and compared to Luce, she was a child of fortune. Quina asked if she really had that bad luck. She told her to wait and that she would soon see for herself. Leifa turned to her and said there was something scary in front of them. The girl held a cursed doll in her hand. She called Jinta for help. She asked what gacha was and if her luck was lost. Leifa said that if she didn't hand over the doll within 7 days, she would be cursed. Kina thought about how small the things the hero had to say were. He shouted to the goddess to get out of here and away from him. The heroes had dinner in Logro City and discussed what to eat. Jinta said it was already late. Leifa said the guild could be visited tomorrow and then suggested looking for an inn. An inn was found. The heroes apologized and said they only had 1 room. Kina said it was okay and they would save money. Goddess mentioned that if Jinta didn't do anything vulgar, she would be fine with it. Suddenly she shouted, asking what the elf girl was doing, who climbed onto her bed. She said her bed was a bit dusty, so she would sleep with her. Leifa was confused and then told her to sleep with her, calling the girl shameless. The latter said how cruel it was to disturb the newlyweds. The goddess was shocked. She asked if the person would do it right then, adding that she meant since when they became an official couple, and in general, what she would do if Behemoth was defeated by a woman. Quina wondered, floating above the lilies. She undid her buttons and lowered her pants while talking about this. Is this what she wanted? The girl was panicking inside her, screaming for Jinta's help. Kina has already taken off her pants. The hero said he would go check on Hee-chan and that he would surely miss her. The goddess screamed, asking why now Alish told Leifa to be quiet or he would tear her apart. They separated. The other screamed loudly, sticking herself to the wall in panic. Kina said she was just kidding. Two female workers are discussing the vandal gotcha. One of them is looking at her portrait, while the others are saying that she was sent from headquarters this morning and that they should be careful. They said that she is a young man with black hair and black eyes. She paid no more than 1,000 ren and won a big prize every time. The girl said that there is no such thing and that it's probably just an urban legend. Someone approached them. Jinta came in and handed 1,000 to Rin. The two female employees screamed in fear that they lost the hero who went out. She told Kina that they have the staff. Kina replied that it's amazing she could win it the first time. Jinta said she still needs to find the armor. The girl agreed and said safety first. Jinta looked at Leifa and said it's her. She asked if she had gotten rid of the creepy doll. However, when Jinta looked at her, she said that no one wanted to take her away. She said that someone would take her by themselves. She showed what she got and said it was the same stick. The hero said that maybe with it he could try to break the curse. The girl replied that it was a thought with the stick in her hand. She stood in front of the doll. She directed the purifying light to fulfill her promise. Jinta thought that he even looked like a god. Using his recovery, everything shone. The doll became ordinary and looked pretty good. Then he said he had done it. He dropped himself to the ground with relief. The hero said he did it well. Jinta thought he seemed to do pretty well and Leifa could be a good supporter. He realized it would make the group quite balanced. Kina told him about the cloak he won before and asked if he could give it to Leifa. He replied that if she wanted it and asked if she needed it herself, but she seemed to guess. Alish expressed his fear that the handle wouldn't fit in his body and its size was small. Goddess was surprised. Jinta was embarrassed to say no wonder. Kina said he was looking too hard and she was embarrassed. Jinta apologized to her. She said it was okay. She just asked him not to do it in the middle of the city. She said she could stare at him all she wanted in the hotel. He cheerfully asked if that was true but said he might say no. Standing behind him with a scary expression on his face was Leifa. Jinta asked Goddess if she was done, who replied yes, adding that she had changed her clothes, which she handed to them with embarrassment. The hero said it looked good. Kina said she looked good. Leifa asked if her skirt was too short, and if it was okay to show her belly button. She approached the hero and asked for his opinion. He thought about it and said it looked good on her. Jinta said she looked very cute in that outfit. He said he would keep it. Then the hero said okay, they were ready and suggested they finish off the goblins, which the girls agreed to. In the valley of Lefon Leifa, Hee-chan was called out but didn't respond. He said with fear that he had already left. Maybe he got bored and went back to the forest towards the house by Lake Jinta. Wondering where Hee-chan would go, Kina told them to look while pointing her finger. The dragon was attacked by goblins. The goddess turned to the hero who said he knew. He asked Hee-chan to wait and said he would help now, staring seriously at the goblin. With all his might he struck, breathing fire at them, and the fight began. At last, the goblin was defeated. The hero thought that the dragon was really strong. He asked if Hee-chan was okay. She nodded. Leifa said that even though she was small, she was still a dragon. Jinta said to gather stones from the defeated goblins. Hee-chan counted 10 pieces. She said that with that they could consider that they had completed half of the quest and praised the dragon. She said that maybe they could quickly gather the other half as well, and if there were more goblins nearby, She heard the shouts of the 3 men with the carriage surrounded by the goblins. One of them claimed to be a bloodthirsty goblin. They rushed forward, attacking, leaping, swinging their weapons, and aiming at one of the men in the air. They were slashed into by a sword that did it in a bone-breaking leap appeared on the ground. The remaining goblins fled, but they were attacked by arrows. One of the men asked who that was. Quina used wind arrows. Lifa appeared and said that it seemed she was already late. Some goblins climbed into the man's carriage. He shouted for them to stop and that the goods were expensive. The items decided to break free from her command, ordering the goblin to stay away from the luggage and calling it dirty. She jumped and hit it with her stick, but it used its shield. She was confused. She smiled, but then she was scared as a dragon stood behind the girl's back. Liafa turned to Hichan, who growled. She began to use the dragon's breath. The goblins were scared. Jinta said it was bad. She screamed at him to stop. She apologized and said she would burn their belongings. Liafa stared at the goblins and shouted for them to flee. Quina said she wouldn't let them escape. The hero asked her to wait and not shoot. He asked if she was sure, saying they must have some kind of hideout, and they would follow them and sweep the entire Alpha's nest. He said that was expected from Lord Jinta. He turned to Liafa and Hichan and suggested they finish it. Both agreed to do it, so the 3 men wondered who they were chasing. The goblins. As they entered the forest, Liafa said, "This means this is where the goblins' nest is." Quina said how scary the place was. The hero said that the forest was quite large. He thought about the wreckage of the carriage and the scattered cargo everywhere. He wondered if it all belonged to the traitors who were attacked. Quina warned Jinta about what was ahead. He jumped back in fear and a spear stabbed into the ground in front of him. In front of the heroes were the goblins. Jinta said that they appeared without dust and at a higher level. He told the team to be careful and that they were more dangerous on flat ground. The hero instructed Lifa to support them from behind, and if any of them got injured, to immediately use healing magic, so don't worry and relax. He told her to go to Quina, who instructed her to protect Lifa first and foremost, only supporting her if necessary. She answered that she understood. She said it might not be easy, but she relied on them. Jinta told Hichan to just watch him, annoyed. He apologized and told her to destroy the items. He said, "Let the battle begin," and called Hichan to move forward. Jinta and the dragon fought against the goblins. Liafa was thinking of just relaxing when suddenly she saw a goblin nearby. She was surprised and covered her head, but she was already killed. She was shocked to see it. Quina said it was dangerous to gape at it, calling her a princess. The goddess screamed that she knew the hero, asking the goblins what was wrong and saying they were weak enough. Hichan looked ahead and asked her what was wrong. The tree showed the claw of someone. The big goblin commander came to them. Jinta was surprised and said that it seemed like someone strong had appeared. The alphas asked for help and directed their shots. The sky seemed as if the goblin didn't feel the impact. He was surprised the hero thought about Quina's bouncing magic. He and how strong he was. Lifa said it was durable armor. Quina asked if it was made of iron. The hero thought about how he didn't know their specific terms and felt useless. Aleste said the goblin armor wasn't bad. Lifa said she must have gotten it from the Jinta merchant, preparing her sword. Quina suggested she retreat now and said that the armed goblins were dangerous enough. She was surprised the hero stood in the midst of the defeated goblins. She apologized to Quina and said that today she wanted to destroy their lair so they wouldn't rampage on the last road. Lifa was surprised and asked if Quina forgot that she was the one who defeated the hippopotamus. She said as long as no monster more dangerous than Behemoth appeared, there was nothing to worry about. Aleste said reasonably and asked if she really was useless. The goddess said that if no one was hurt, then she was not needed either. Jinta shouted at them that they had made enough decisions on their own. He said he could only fight safely because they were behind him. He said he fought in front because that was his role in the group, and because he didn't want to endanger them. The girls were dazed. They climbed towards him for a hug. Quina said she really appreciated it, and now she would follow him for the rest of her life. Liafa said she would try her best too, so let her get hurt as much as possible. The hero said he didn't want to get hurt by the girl's offer. Continuing for the sake of peace on the street, Hee-chan looked unhappy. Jinta agreed, telling them not to relax, and they didn't know what would happen. The hero asked him to stop and laughed, saying not to ask those girls if anyone had a handkerchief or towel. Leifa asked if he was joking. They walked out into the open. Jinta said there was a vast expanse and asked if they had reached the deepest part of the forest. Kina said that this place was somehow strange. Jinta asked again, saying that there was a creepy atmosphere here. He said he had a bad feeling about it. The trees rustled. Everyone was scared. The large Goblin King appeared in front of them, shouting loudly. He ordered Leifa to retreat, claiming how big and powerful he was with a sword in hand, destroying the ground. Hee-chan was hit, sent flying back with a scream. Jinta yelled at him, landing hard. The girls screamed at him, but the goblin was already behind the hero, aiming right at Jinta's head. With a deafening clash, Jinta dodged and countered with his own sword, sending the severed piece flying far away. The goblin was surprised. The girls stared in fear. Pictures began to appear under the hero's feet. He turned towards the bleeding goblin, a huge ball of blood flowing towards the fallen goblin. He screamed, asking how dare he defeat them, Hee-chan, and direct a strong attack. Leifa said how amazing his magic power. Kina said that it was amazing. The hero said in surprise that he seemed to be holding back his faint black fire that was all over the field. The girls asked if the three of them were lying on the ground. Leifa said that Jinta said he restrained himself, and there was no wet spot left from the goblin who apologized. Kina asked if Hee-chan was okay. Jinta thought he wouldn't die because of it and said it seemed like he was hiding somewhere where they started looking for him. The hero said it was strange, and he thought he was hiding somewhere around here. Leifa said he wasn't anywhere. Someone asked if they were looking for something. Jinta replied that they were looking for Hee-chan. The girl said she was here. She turned around because she was surprised. There was a cheerful little girl standing in front of them. She wondered if it was someone else. She threw herself into his arms, calling him master. She asked about what he was and who he was in general. He said it was the usual voice he made when he was still a dragon and said it was his Jinta. He asked if he was really Hee-chan. Leifa noticed that she had horns and wings. Kina said that she looked very similar to Hee-chan, the hero. She said that it meant she was really Hee-chan. The girl replied that she said the same thing. She asked how it could happen. Leifa answered that she didn't know herself. She said it happened when she was thrown back there and strange water entered her mouth. The girl said that before she knew it, she had become like that, just like them. Jinta said it was understandable, and actually nothing could be understood. He asked in wonder if he was a girl. Leifa told him not to look. She gave Hee-chan the last robe, saying it was difficult to move in it. The goddess apologized and said she would find a more suitable robe for her later. The hero showed his potion and asked if that was what she drank. The girl said it was true. Leifa asked Hee-chan if he felt any pain anywhere and how he was feeling. In response, he touched his head, lifted his robe, looked down, and said he seemed fine. Jinta said they understood and asked him to cover up a bit. Kina suggested looking around first. Leifa closed her eyes as Jinta said it was a good idea and maybe they could find a potion that would make him normal again. He suggested that since they had defeated the ringleader, they should return to the city first and report back to the heroes in the city. They threw a mountain of nuclear at the old man. He asked in amazement if he should evaluate it. He asked how many nuclear were there. Jinta replied that they needed an assessment for a report as big as 20 nucleifa and thought that here he would buy some extra. The elderly person responded that he understood and would need some time with the quill pen. He was writing something on the paper he was looking at. Carefully, he asked if he had never seen a quill pen before. He agreed and said it was strange and interesting. The old man said how strange the child was. He took out a stone and asked what it was, saying, "It looks like there are some ordinary stones among the core." The hero was very surprised and apologized. He thought about what he took in the forest where he killed the Goblin King. He thought it was the goblin's core, but it turned out to be something else. We should ask him about it. He asked where Leifa and Kina went. The old man said that if he meant the girls, they went to the children's clothing department. The girl's name was Hee-chan. They asked to see what they didn't choose. He offered to try it on. He was confused. The girl screamed that she didn't want to. She didn't want to ask what they were doing and called the girl's master to tell her to stand still and she would definitely like it. They put her in a dress. Lifa said how cute it was. Queena said she was like a doll. She changed the girl's clothes and said she was cute in this one too and made them die. And the dragon costume made them silent in general. Leifa said how cute she was. Queena offered to try something else. The girl asked someone to save her. She went to her master with her clothes and told him that Queena and Leifa were so evil that God asked if the first choice turned out to be lower than that. He said they had been mocking him all the time by dressing him in different clothes. He said they didn't mean to mock him at all and asked him to forgive them. He said that Hee-chan was so funny that they couldn't help themselves. The girl interrupted Jinta, saying she looked like a princess from the Naga country. Hai-chan happily jumped on her. Jinta said he wanted that outfit. The seller said it would be 4,800 ren. They walked down Hero Street. He said he was tickled by the same thing. He said the rest was left to report to the guild and the task would be completed. Lifa said it was easy and simple. Queena asked why he was so excited. They walked down the street. Chan was amazed when he said there were many things here that he had never seen before. The hero said he was watching, having fun. He said he wanted to walk around the city at least once. The girl said she was always waiting for them at home, how happy she was near her master. Queena said it was quiet because Leifa answered that indeed they didn't think about her feelings at all. The girl's stomach suddenly growled. She said she was very hungry. She had never felt that before, and here she was again, said Jinta. He was also hungry, and suggested they eat first. He asked Hee-chan what she wanted to eat. Finally, he asked again. She said they would buy whatever she wanted to eat. The girl came up with an idea. She asked Hee-chan if she wanted to eat goblin. Everyone was confused. The hero asked her to choose something else. She replied that she said she would buy whatever she wanted. She apologized. The heroes are at the Jinta Hotel apologizing and saying that once again there is only one room available. Lee says he thinks it's not a problem like that. Chan says there are only 3 beds. Queena says it will definitely be a problem. She says she has a good idea. She says she will sleep with Jintan. Leifa says she knows. She will say there will be no problem if she sleeps with Hee-chan. The elf girl answers that it's not fair. She says she wants to sleep with Hee-chan too. Queena asks who decided that. She says, of course, Hee-chan wants to sleep with her. Hee-chan says it feels so good with the master. Leifa shouted that it was different and asked Queena to let go of the girl's hand. She called out to Hee-chan, saying she had pineapples here. Queena said it wasn't fair to buy with food. Hai-chan yelled at them that it was enough. The girls fell silent. She said she had a great idea. They all lay down with Jinta, and the girl said this was the solution. The hero shouted that he wouldn't be able to sleep like that. In the guild, Anaya thanked Kazami for saying she didn't expect to destroy the entire goblin nest, and that they wouldn't bother them again. She replied, "That's how it is," and was happy to try it. She said she was very helpful to the girls. Looking at him disgustedly, Leifa thought that Jinta actually liked being talked to like that, and openly teased the hero, saying they had received a reward and asking what was next. She suggested going to eat. Leifa approached him, jokingly saying she wanted to go with them to the store. She asked Anaya if she had any recommendations for the next task. She screamed at him not to ignore her. The worker asked about this request. She asked about finding someone. Then she was surprised with the 1 million prize. Anaya said that the prize was initially less, but she hadn't been found for half a year, so the prize increased. Queena said that they must really want to find her. Anaya said it seems so. She said that Mr. Jinta is financially supported by this company and it seems he's researching some kind of medicine. Then he took and disappeared with the research material. Jinta said he had just taken and fled. Leifa suggested that he take this quest. He agreed, but said it would be difficult to find someone who disappeared 6 months ago. Queena said there was a foul smell around here. He was asked what was wrong. He said he disappeared just like that and the result of his research. Didn't he say they could not miss this quest? Everyone looked at him. Jinta agreed and said that taking and fleeing was still wrong and offered to take this quest. Leifa said that when she said it, she asked if this was Mr. Line's picture and said it looked like Uncle Usual. She asked Anaya if there was more information. Anaya apologized and said she didn't have it and that's all she had, the hero said when he thought it would be a waste of time. Hie-chan saw the picture and said she knew him and that the man lived near teacher Jinta's house. Jinta asked if that was true. He agreed, and they went by train. The girl in the picture asked if it was definitely a man. The girl answered without a doubt. She said that he usually comes to the forest all the time and gives her pineapples. She said that a few days before her master came to the forest, this man had left from there. Jinta thought about the fact that a few days ago he said that his master's lineage had been living there for 6 months, and a few days ago, he left again. Currently, Leifa is lying in his lap and thinking not to vomit. Jinta asked Chan if she knew where he could have gone. She replied that she didn't, and suggested that they look around his house and said that maybe they would find some clues. They ended up at the house. Quina exclaimed in amazement that it was their home with Sir. Quina Leifa said angrily that she lived there too. Hai-chan asked himself. The hero slapped his head and said of course it was his home, their home. Leifa asked the girl how long she had been living in this forest, who answered that she didn't live there. Even the goddess asked where her mother and father were. Leifa asked if she wanted to sleep. She apologized and said she could sleep while looking at the girl. She realized that she had fallen asleep and thought how cute she was there. There were bookshelves at Kina's house. She looked at Jinta and said that it was a line note, or more precisely a girl's diary. She asked if there was something there that could give a clue. He answered in agreement. He looked at Kina. The hero suggested destroying the quest. Kina asked if he was imprisoned. Jinta said that Mr. Rhine had just been imprisoned by the company in the research laboratory, and he was forced to conduct research on this drug. According to the diary, the drug ordered to be developed is a strong and effective anesthetic, even against monsters. To try the drug, he said that the company had prepared test monsters and captured a female fire dragon in Mount Nara and captured her eggs with them. The hero said that it was Hee-chan and his mother. Kina asked if that meant he was. Chan was the test subject, but they couldn't experiment on him because he was still in the egg. However, his mother was used as the test subject. During the research, she was heavily sedated with drugs, which was terrifying. Mr. Rhine, who strongly opposed the company, did something out of character. He said he stole the finished drugs with the egg and then escaped from the lab. Kina asked if it was true that he eventually stayed here secretly and took care of Chan. Jinta firmly replied that he had more things to share. He mentioned that Mr. Rain had known that he had been announced for the search and was afraid he would be found. So he left. He and Hie-chan went to the forest where the hero said that this was the last entry in his diary. He wrote it about 2 weeks ago, stating that completing this quest was the same as handing Mr. Rain over to this company. Jinta mentioned that in order to give good people who helped Hee-chan escape, he couldn't do it. Kina asked if he wanted to give up on the search. He replied that he was sorry and he couldn't, but the girl objected. She said she felt the same way he did. The hero turned to her when they suddenly heard a strange sound. The girl asked what had just happened. Jinta replied that it was on the first floor. She asked if they were really people from the company and if they wanted to steal. Hee-chan, the hero, declared that he wouldn't let them see him. Jinta shouted at the goddess sitting on the straw. Hee-chan transformed into a dragon, confusing everyone. Leifa promised to explain, saying she was just sitting in the girl's lap. After a while, she was on her back. She didn't think they understood. The hero disagrees and says that they understand the effects of the medicine have worn off, and he has turned into a dragon again. He says to open the inventory outside, he pulls the dragon out of him. Jinta says it seems like he can really put anything into his subroom. Quina says that's good, and they don't need to knock down the wall to get him out. Leifa reads the diary and says it's clear and she's very overwhelmed by the gift, so she completely forgot and it's all Dad's doing. He said they definitely have a bad reputation, and it seems they're in the business of selling weapons. And the slave girl said she agrees that they should give up the search. She asked, how about Mom Hee-chan? Leafa said that in Mr. Rhine's diary, it was mentioned that he was placed on a ship near a mountain by the river. She said if that was true, she wanted to help Hee-chan meet his mother again. She wanted to ask something to Jinta but was surprised because the whole team was already standing far away. The hero shouted at her, asking what she was doing there and calling her to leave. She asked where they were going. She answered that they were going to Mount Air, where Jinta said they would save Chan's mother. She asked if she wanted to stay here. Leafa responded that she had already left. She asked Jinta if he was sure he could hold her in his room, his arms. She asked him to be gentle and not rough. He turned to her, the hero, thinking about the fact that it was only a matter of time before Hee-chan gave them a ride to Mount Nail. He told her to hurry, and she flew into the inventory while screaming because she couldn't fit 3 adults in there. He decided to keep Leafa there. The girl screamed that she had asked for something gentler and called him stupid. She disappeared from Jinta's sight. He said that's it, apologizing mentally to her. Hee-chan couldn't load 3 Leafa, waiting patiently for an answer that it was a sudden forced sacrifice. Jinta was very surprised when he saw the number of pinego in his inventory decrease and thought he was eating them. He yelled to stop eating the rations he left for emergencies. Only 7 pinego were left out of 10. He said that if this continued, they would run out and they needed to hurry. Quina replied that she understood. They began their journey. The hero said they had traveled quite far and asked if they had traveled further, and if Quina knew the area, she answered negatively, and the direction was somewhat correct, but she didn't know the details. She said she thought taking the path was a bad idea. Quina asked if it was the same mountain. She answered affirmatively, and the same. They made it. Jinta said the day was starting to get dark, and they would spend the night here and continue climbing at dawn, and he said Chan should rest too gently, answering that he thought he was right. The hero hopes Leafa hasn't eaten all the pinego and opened the inventory. She put her hand in and said that it might be hers. She started delivering it too. The girl shouted at her to wait and not to delay. She took off her skirt while looking at the ground. She saw the goddess. She said she was in pain. She lay on the ground without her skirt. Jinta felt embarrassed and apologized. Quina said she didn't need to force herself too much, and if she wanted it so badly she could take it off. She said she didn't think about it. She told Leafa that she didn't realize it was her skirt. She shouted what she was doing and asked her to return it quickly. The team made a fire. The goddess said they had come this far and asked if they could find Mother Hai-chan on this mountain. Jinta replied that he thought they would find him. He said that you could tell just by looking at him. Chan. He kept looking towards the mountain. He said that he wasn't even bothered by them. Leafa replied that maybe he could sense his mother's aura. They asked him to wait longer and said that they would definitely help them meet. The man asked if they had found Rhine Friedman. The man kneeling answered yes and asked for his forgiveness. All the supervisors agreed. The father said he had no other choice and would surrender soon. He said that even the remaining prototype in the laboratory was stolen by the goblins during transportation. He said they would make a lot of money if they could sell it along with his monster minions, but they had to do something about the fire dragon as soon as possible. Acello mentioned that despite the experiment slightly weakening the dragon, it still remains a very valuable product, and he believes in combining the man in black attire, and it feels like he is climbing. Mount Leafa said she couldn't feel her legs. The queen warned the man to be careful, and there are steeper cliffs further ahead, saying it's like Leafa's breasts. The girl was inside and screaming, asking who had breasts like that. She said that even though they weren't big, she had them. The hero noticed something, and she said that it seemed like Mother Hee-chan was behind bars there. She asked if they really succeeded. Quina said it was strange that she didn't see any guards here. The hero stood in front of them, great and watching them. They saw that he was here. Hee-chan asked who he was. Jinta answered that it was her mother. Hai-chan turned towards her. The mother roared. Leafa asked what was wrong. Alish said there was something amiss here. The hero hesitated for a moment. Looking at his features, he saw that his HP had greatly decreased and thought he was weak. The dragon lady looked angry. Jinta shouted for everyone to retreat immediately. The girls were confused. Hai's mother Chan stood up and roared loudly. Everyone was shocked. She prepared to attack the dragon girl, confused, and asked what the hero said. Unexpectedly, he pointed his sword forward at the dragon, using a breath of fire that attacked Jinta. The girls stared in surprise. The hero covered his face with a dark filament to fight against the dragon's attack. Chan watched as a very difficult light pillar formed. He said it was dangerous, but he still managed to hold his breath. The girls ran towards him, shouting his name. The hero didn't realize what had just happened. Seeing his condition, he said that Mother He-chan had gone crazy because of the medicine, and he was sure she didn't even realize what she was doing now. Kina mentioned that if there was a cleaning magic effect, Leifa might fix it. Jinta replied that it would definitely happen suddenly. Acheklo and his men appeared and shouted, asking what they were doing here. Jinta asked where they came from and thought they were quite sensational. One of the people called the crew of rogues and asked who they were and what they were doing here. Kina answered, saying while hugging Jinta that they were just a pair of justice fighters who wanted to free the fire dragon. Liafa shouted angrily that they had time to play around. Acheklo mentioned a coincidence, and maybe they were just traitors who came to steal the fire dragon. She was approached by a man with a sword. He said while pointing towards the direction of the girl, "That person's gaze is definitely the girl from the storm." Gacha Acheklo interrupted the person, answered that he was a dangerous wizard swordsman. He said that their friends who were in the chicken were almost dead in his hands. Someone else said that besides that, he now has a dragon behind him. In other words, there is an elf woman with big breasts standing next to him. Another said, there is also a flat-chested one with them. They shouted that he was on fire and asked for water quickly. Jinta looked suspiciously at what was happening. Rocks, scattered from the mountain girl and black, rolled down the mountain, landing right in front of the hero she saw at him. She asked if he was okay. They silently glanced at each other. Meldes ran quickly away from him. She asked if he was escaping. Acheklo stood shocked. While the dragon was behind them, he shouted to Mrs. Meldes, asking her to wait as they escaped. He yelled to the girl Kina, asking what was wrong with the hero. Chuckling, he said, "Who knows?" Suddenly the ground split into one. He-chan managed to pull Kina away, and on the other side told her to stay away from the path the hero mentioned. He wanted to return Mother He-chan to normal, and asked Liafa how far her purification abilities could work. She answered that she thought somewhere around 3-4 meters, not too far. She thought about the fact that at that distance a dragon can attack with both its tails and claws, not to mention its fiery breath. If Leifa becomes the target, she won't survive. He looks at He-chan and warns that it's dangerous here, so he asks to take Leifa and Kina away from here. The dragon interrupts, saying that Kina will take care of it, unfortunately asking what's on the hero's mind. He answers that he will start by calming He-chan's girls. The dragon's back is taken away from Jinta. The goddess turns around and mentions her name. She fights the mother dragon, drawing her sword but missing. The dragon took off and said that, unlike He-chan, adult fire dragons could fly how cleverly he was, and he didn't think his attack would reach him. As he looked up, he was surprised to see that he was preparing a strong attack, and surprised that he would attack from there. He looked towards Hei-chan, and the girls' heroes realized that he was aiming there. The dragon's attack approached. Jinta shouted to Hei-chan. The girls turned back. They looked scared. He-chan spread his wings and pushed himself off the ground. He managed to avoid the attack. Jinta looked surprised. He shouted as he took off. Jinta asked when he found out like that while looking towards flying Hei-chan. He said it seemed he leveled up by killing goblins and all sorts of evil things. He landed. Lifa said it was cool, and now he could fly. Quina said he thought they had moved far enough and asked He-chan to help Jinta immediately. He quickly flew to him. The hero noticed the dragon approaching and rejoiced. He wrote a letter to him and told him that his power would not be enough here. Then asked if he would help him. He said that together they would save his mother. Right now, Mama Naga took a human pose. Jinta said in surprise that his fire disappeared just like that. The female dragon Sang was preparing for another attack, causing them to retreat slightly. The hero said that blessing skills were also available to adults. He looked to the side as the dragon lunged towards the girls again. The unlucky remark Quine told the goddess to be behind him, saying the distance was not enough to avoid the blow. He said not to underestimate the elf woman. They created a wall of wind to defend themselves from the attack. Kina asked if Jinta was fighting against her now. She said she could weaken his blows, but there was smoke residue on her clothes. Lifa glanced towards him. The hero shouted to the girls, asking if they were okay. Kina shouted back at him. She said that she might not be worried and he should help. Hee-chan rushed over immediately as Leifa was taking care of him. The hero turned in the sky with Hee-chan, avoiding his mother's attacks. He said that the black fire was not strong enough and attacking the dragon with fire was not very effective. He said that to attack with a sword, they had to get closer, and if they could do that, Hee-chan looked at him. He asked her if she could rely on him. Kina mentioned that Hai-chan seemed to be slowing down and responded that she might have not been used to flying for a long time. However, the girl said that she didn't know if she could keep avoiding her mother's attacks from now on. Jinta reassured Hee-chan that it was okay and asked her to hold on, lowering herself a bit. They saw the dragon woman attacking again. The hero told Hee-chan that it would happen. Kina was surprised that they were behaving like that. Liafa said she would approach her before shooting towards her. The girls thought it was useless, and they wouldn't arrive on time. Hee-chan's mother released a powerful dragon breath. Hai-chan and the smoke began to descend. The girls screamed as the dragon peeked out. Liafa and Kina noticed that she wasn't there. Hai-chan looked up, jumped to the right on top of her mother's head, turned and looked at her. She said it would hurt a little. She told her to grit her teeth and kick her head. She asked her to be quiet and told her it would soon be over. She was confused after her critical blow. She quickly flew down, breaking the ground. Chan lay on the ground and groaned. Kina happily exclaimed that it worked. Liafa wanted to say something about the trap when suddenly stairs flew up to catch Jinta. The girls saw that everything seemed fine. Chan lay on the ground and sighed. Leah said she did well. The elf girl said that because she was also a fire dragon, the fire couldn't hurt her. The hero said on the contrary, the fire breath really helped them by hiding behind it. They successfully made it to the blind spot. Kina said it was a good plan for the hero to say thank you and said it was all thanks to him. Lifa raised her staff, saying it was her turn now and she would use purification and healing magic. Suddenly, the stones stirred. The goddess asked in fear what it was. Kina pointed her finger and told her to look. Liafa asked if it was a landslide. Unfortunately, she said if it appeared because of their battle. The goddess screamed to run away quickly. Quina asked where to run. Lifa said that someone could hide in the item box. Jinta replied that you can't. She said that then they won't be able to get out of there. The girl cried and asked, what should they do? The hero said, don't be afraid, and that he would drive away the landslide with his black fire. The elf girl asked if such a thing was possible. He agreed, but said that he suggested they move further away in case he started to enchant his sword with dark smoke, thinking that he needed to pour more mana. Jinta was terrified at the thought of someone instructing him to destroy the hero without realizing whose voice it was. He screamed to shut up and asked who it was. The voice said he was useless to him at the moment and told him to step back. The voice commanded to destroy everything. The hero stepped forward, swung his sword, and shouted at him to be silent. He used his remaining black firepower to pull the stone behind him. He shouted that it created a large gap formed, and at the end of it on the mountain there was a big explosion. The heroes saw it in front of them was a pillar of light. The heroes kept watching. Lifa turned to Jinta. She asked him to wait. She said she just wanted to push back the landslide and she didn't intend to destroy the mountain. Kina said it seems the view has changed a bit. Hii rejoiced. Jinta asked about how Hai-chan's mother was doing. Liafa said that it seemed like she herself wasn't strong enough to recover. She ran out of mana. The hero replied that it was all because of Hii-chan's problem. She had over 200,000 XP. She said that all the negative effects in her status had disappeared, so she needed to recover quickly. Liafa said she understood, and then there was nothing to worry about. Kina and Hee-chan cheered. The dragon lady roared, standing up. When Jinta woke up, Hai-chan looked at him like a hero, and Liafa observed as they communicated in their language. The goddess said they seemed to be okay. Kazami said yes. He understood his child perfectly. The girl turned to him and asked if it would be better for everyone. He agreed, and that was their goal in coming here. After all, she cried and told him not to cry. The dragon ascended to the sky, taking on human form. The mother said she knew everything that had happened here, knowing about her daughter. Jinta was amazed by the reincarnation skill. He thanked them for taking care of his child. He apologized for his recent bad behavior and asked how he could thank them. The hero said he had something great and asked him to lift his head. Leafa was thinking about how evil she was, while Kina thought it was impressive. Mother Hee-chan asked again. The hero replied not to worry, saying that he fought beautifully alongside the dragon from the fire tribe, which not everyone could do. He was very happy because the extraordinary adventurer took care of his daughter. Jinta replied that he was the only one taking care of her, which was a bit wrong, as he had helped them many times as well. He said that she was a very good girl, and as they say, she was like that. It's up to them now. Leafa said that in the end, children are better off going with their parents. Hee-chan looked at them in surprise. He turned to the hero, saying that they had promised him in the beginning. Didn't they say they had promised to find their parents and bring them back to them? The girl remembered how she said they would find their parents. Leafa expressed her happiness in meeting the heroes. She turned to Hee-chan and said that it seemed like this was where their paths diverged. She cried out and thanked Chan for letting her fly towards him, hoping that both she and her mother would be okay. Kina shouted that she had helped them a lot during the battle and wished them the best. The girl answered while crying. The heroes looked at her as they bid farewell to Hee-chan. Jinta said he never caught anything. It's been a week since they've been at the lake house and feeling a bit disoriented. Kina called out for Jinta and said she heard that dinner was ready. She was surprised to see Leafa already holding plates. Leafa mentioned that this was Quina and the hero's table. Kazami commented that this is how he looked like a junk dealer but surprisingly skilled in housework. He asked if that was a problem. Leafa asked in confusion what he meant by a junk dealer. He said that if they didn't go shopping soon, they would run out of supplies. The hero interrupted, saying it was a half-day walk to the city for shopping. Quina said that if it was Hei-chan, she would fly down to Leafa and drop her harpoon. She asked again about Hai-chan. The gentle Chan turned to Leafa, starting to cry. She screamed the dragon's name. Jinta asked if she missed him so much. She said she thought she had been calm in the past few days. However, she knew that Leafa really liked Hee-chan, and she wouldn't get used to it so quickly. She was sure that Kina felt the same way, and she felt the same way when she went to sleep. Cover was a little warm. He thought maybe Leafa or Kina had left a hot water bottle under the blanket. He let out a sigh and said, "That's it then." He said okay. Then the hero covered himself with the blanket and said, "It's warm." They fell asleep in silence. Suddenly a realization came to Jinta, and he shouted his name. He answered joyfully. He asked why he was here. The girl replied that anyway they had told her themselves that this was her home too. She said that's why she came back. The hero agreed, but said that he had found his mother. Jinta said that she was happy and Kina couldn't be their parent. Hee-chan replied that they were friends. He said that they ate together, slept together, and fought together, but he was a Dr. Dragon. The girl asked if she could stay with them. The hero smiled. He thought yes. Jinta answered yes, of course, and the girl hugged him. Suddenly, the girls looked at her too, and the girl looked at them happily. She was so happy to be told that she was accepted into Leafa's home, crying as she went to Hii-chan for a hug, thinking about her becoming one of them girls. She said she was at home, telling him what her mother had said to her. She said that if Hii-chan wanted to stay with the people, she had to learn a lot. Leafa was happy Hee-chan came back and roared, telling her to stop crying. The girl said that's why she practiced hard to return to them. Kina said she had done a good job. He said her mother praised Jinta very much, and she also said that Jinta loved her. She said her mother said that in the end they would get married and then lie down. Everyone was surprised, the hero interrupted Kina, telling Jinta at night that she was very brave. The girl giggled. Leafa said it was horror. Kazami asked what they were talking about. Everyone was looking forward to the surprise. Leafa asked if this was the entrance to the basement. Jinta said they had arrived there faster than they thought. Leafa asked why they actually had to look for items for this store. The hero replied that they had no choice. Everything happened a day after Hee-chan returned. They received advice from the gambling store employee where they came to shop. Anaya said she had a suggestion for Jinta to collect rare artifacts. He would get a reward for them. He said they now had a reduced gift catalog, stopping the flow of visitors, making it difficult to run a business in such conditions. The hero replied, "Yes, everything is very bad here." He asked if it was because they had disabled everything. Anaya replied that no. She said that there was recently a big explosion at their supplier's warehouse that destroyed the items she asked about nervously. Kina said sadly and asked how it happened. Anaya replied that the cause is unknown but can be trusted by eyewitnesses. The girl said that according to them, a big ball of fire came from the direction of the mountain and hit the warehouse directly. The heroes became nervous, remembering the explosion. Anaya expressed relief that there was no one in the warehouse, but all their belongings were burned. She said they didn't have the ability to hire high-ranking professionals at the moment, so they could only hire them, but they were confident that the team would beat the hippopotamus. Jinta replied by relying on them. Anaya happily told Leafa that it was her fault, she said, by the way. Is there anything left in this underground prison and even so close to the city, and she thought the place had already been searched. Leafa told him to be more optimistic. They said this is the deepest floor, the 7th floor, but in fact there are 10 floors, meaning no one has ever gone down to the 7th floor. You just need to find a secret descendant. He asked how she knew there was one floor here that no one had ever gone down below the 7th floor. After everyone answered that it was because she was a goddess, the girl asked what she was talking about. The girl was asked to believe her and said that there must be something there. Quina shouted at her to be careful. Leafa walked into a hole in the floor in front of her, starting to fall, but someone caught her just in time and told her to be careful. She asked if she was okay, and he replied yes. The hero said that one must be careful in the basement. The girl answered that she was fine, apologizing. They walked further, and Leafa felt embarrassed. Kai said he was jealous of her. She asked if he fell into a hole like that. Would his master save him too? Jinta noticed her sign, and she said that here they were on the 7th day. He asked if it was a dead end. The hero said that not even monsters appeared there, no treasure either. Leafa said that there must be descendants here, and they must look more carefully. Quina called them to look here. The hero asked what was there. The elves said there was an inscription saying, "Isn't this ancient writing of the spirits?" Leafa responded that it seemed so, and asked what could be written here. Jinta asked if she couldn't read it, and requested her to let him see it. He was very surprised to realize that she seemed to be thinking. Kina asked if something had happened. The hero replied no. He said it seemed to be here and pressed the stone door open. Everyone was surprised. The girls screamed at Jinta. Leafa asked how he understood. He simply answered that he knew everything. Kina asked if he could read it. Leafa asked how he knew this writing. She thought to herself that of course he could read it because the tablet had Japanese characters. Let him press the cornered stone, and in the end is hoping for luck. Jinta said that here they must go far until the end until they hit a stone far below the stairs. He said that here they are, the last floor. They wonder how many chests have not been opened, which according to the hero will produce a good report, unless he feels a strange feeling of the presence of something. He said that there must be someone here. Quina said that it might be the same guard mentioned in the apocryphal inscription. Jinta told the treasure keeper, who turned out to be the boss's lair here, and asked if it was true. Leafa said that there was no way such a thing existed. Of course not. She said there was another boss in the underground beginner's room near the city, and actually she would kick his butt with her new murder technique. She looked into his characterization that the real thing added was a goddess kick. She wondered what else it was and what the girl's description said. She said she was obsessed with boxing in her time, skills like they say you can't buy. Jinta asked why she wanted to box. She said she had to do it, and why she bothered the hero. He asked if she could achieve the expected results. The girl replied that she hadn't yet. Kina laughed from behind Leafa, using a goddess kick on Jinta. She instructed her to tie up the hero, suggesting to take the treasure and return to face the guards, or whatever their names were who were watching them. Quina said it was too late. Hai-chan told the lord behind her. The hero gave a surprised look behind her, and Leafa was a big guard as if made of stone directing her fist. She said they were trespassers and must be destroyed. She made a strong punch at Kina and she scared the guard rose from his knees. Jinta emerged from the rubble. He told Leafa to look. He said it was the boss and he used a goddess kick. The frightened girl said she must be joking and asked if she was the one who answered that she was joking. The girl told her to be careful. She said it was probably one of the ancient spiritual crafting techniques. Leafa said it was the eternal giant golem. Jinta said it could regenerate, so interesting. The hero said he would take it down. In dragon form, he attacked a guard. Kina asked Leafa if everyone was okay. Leafa replied that it seemed so. Hai flew back to the rocks. The girls were afraid of him. He turned back into a human. The girl held her head and cried. Leafa turned to her, and Kina said that it seemed they had a tough opponent. He said it was too crowded to fight here. Leafa asked if her head was hit, or what Alice said that Jinta clearly lost. The goddess said about regeneration, that Quina said if it continues like this, they might have a problem. The hero asked the guard if he was stubborn, and said what if Leafa asked him if he had a plan. Jinta struck the ground with his sword, the next attack on the guard himself. He quickly shouted the ground, sending many blows from all sides. Hai-chan said that he understood and had to cut faster than the recovery. Quina told the hero that it was a perfect strategy. Goddess firmly stated to Ram that this strategy called Jinta was aimed for the next attack, and she spat on it while attacking. She mentioned spitting on his regeneration, something that fell from the hero's guard. The hero's guard warned him that if he didn't regenerate now, he would be shattered into pieces, but he stood still and repeated the words of destruction that were quoted. Jinta climbed the gravel and asked what else it was. She said it didn't look like crystal. She said golem seemed to be everything, and maybe this magic pebble was the source of its power. Kina interrupted about the magic stone. Kazami said, "Okay." The girl said, "How could it be?" She asked, how could spiritcraft technology exist here and even be able to move? Jinta asked what kind of spiritual craft it was and said that it was also mentioned by Leafa the goddess, who said that according to its name, it was a tool and device created by spirits. The hero was asked by Quina if he was not familiar with the legends of the previous era. He replied that he was not at all, saying it was the legend of heroes and evil gods, and in his village. Leafa asked what he was doing, and the person said he got an idea. He put this stone into the golem and told it to wake up. The person opened his eyes. The goddess asked if he was sure, and he told her that he had started regenerating again. The hero replied that it was under control. He said they would try the test and think about how to do it. He told Gollum that this was his first command. He said to lift Quina high. Jinta asked back with fear. The guard looked at the girl. He carried her and started lifting her. He was confused. He screamed loudly. Leafa asked Jinta why Gollum thought so. The latter replied that he had rewritten something. He said he had rewritten the text on the plates. He crossed out the text about the destruction of violators and wrote that someone must obey Kazami Jinta unconditionally. The story begins with a noblewoman named Anastasia and her fiancé, Crown Prince. Their engagement was called off during a gathering of nobles, where Anastasia expressed her difficulty in understanding her fiancé. The Crown Prince responded by humiliating her in public, calling her a thoughtless woman and comparing her unfavorably to another girl named Amy, who was said to have healing powers. Despite this, Anastasia warned not to rush the decision, as the country needed someone like Amy. The nobles joined in mocking Anastasia, and she couldn't take it anymore, throwing her glove at the Crown Prince. Later, our main character woke up claiming to remember something important that he had long forgotten and began to carefully explain her story so that everyone could understand it from the beginning. The protagonist's name is Alan, and he lives in the capital of the kingdom of St. Lauren Rurden. He is just a regular 8-year-old boy, but something from his past suddenly reappears to him. The smartphone game he plays about a magical school life seems to indicate that he is reincarnated as a villager in the game world. Alan knows that something very bad is going to happen to his mother, and everyone else in the city will soon die. He decides to investigate further into the dreams he had before, which seems to hold the key to the rest of the game. Anastasia challenges Amy to a duel by throwing her glove at the Crown Prince, stepping in to represent Amy when no one else supports her. In the end, Anastasia loses the duel to the Crown Prince, and then on the way to the local monastery, she is attacked by bandits and disappears. But everything is about to get even worse. According to Alan, the bandit who attacked Anastasia was sent by the Crown Prince, leading to a power imbalance and triggering a civil war that will destroy everything. The stability of the government gave the Eastern Empire the opportunity to attack and defeat the exhausted royal forces with lightning speed. Alan knew this was a terrible situation and was determined not to let their foolishness disrupt his life in any way. He started screaming because there was absolutely no reason for it at all. His mother entered the room and asked what was happening. He explained that he had experienced a strange dream. She told him to have breakfast immediately. Alan decided to protect his mother and promised to protect the city and all the people in it in his own way. Even though he had memories of a previous life, he knew he was still his mother's child in this life. He knew he wouldn't easily run away, so he would continue to protect his people. He realized he needed to change the situation while having breakfast with his mother. He thought about Crown Prince Karl Heinz, who was 8 years old now, just like him, and had once announced his engagement to 8-year-old Anastasia. This made him realize he had 8 more years until the engagement and decision would happen. People might wonder why Alan knew so much about this game story. Turns out he made a bet with his sister to beat the game and couldn't resist the challenge when he walked down the street exchanging thoughts on how to save Anastasia. He saw a train approaching and people gossiping about him as the train passed by. Their eyes met, and Alan considered changing the direction of the game narrative in his quest for ideas. He decided to follow the game's plot closely, realizing he had the power to turn the tables. However, he hesitated because he didn't want Anastasia to die, even though she appeared evil in a normal setting. Alan believed she was a good person. Anastasia's discussion about the country's politics and taxes made him understand her dedication to the nation, and he knew he had to leave in the end, troubling thoughts while lost in this reflection. He accidentally bumped into a few melons owned by a woman named Monica. Alan apologized and praised her for her request to behave well, and mentioned his concern about the fellowship's focus on alcohol. Monica works at the pub connected to the Adventurer Guild headquarters, although feeling dragged by it. Alan remembered he had forgotten something important. He asked for Monica's help, and later Alan entered the guild with his mother. A man who looked rough questioned their presence, assuming his first step of the plan had begun. Alan is getting ready to reveal his intentions to everyone, including his mother, who finds it difficult to understand what he wants at first. Alan expresses his desire to clean the mud from the gutter, a man who initially seemed intimidating, and starts to smile. Listen to him, then the man starts to be kind, and suggests that he join the guild. He instructed his associates to submit the necessary documents that needed to be filled out according to the detailed requirements. After receiving the guild card, Alan was instructed to put a drop of his own blood on it, assuring him that it would only be a small prick on the finger. As soon as Alan finished adding his blood to the card, it lit up, and the man confirmed that the registration process was complete right when Alan finished registering with the guild. Monica suddenly appeared, jumping towards him and playfully throwing a melon at his back, wishing him luck. His mother would surely be proud to have a son like him. Watching this, his mother became emotional, and through tears expressed her hope that he would be okay, urging him to create his own luck. This whole experience made Alan realize the determination he felt could change the course of the story, ultimately saving his mother and the entire city. He realized that this goal required significant effort on his part, so he thought he would investigate further to make sure if this was really the world of the game. He knows he needs a lot of money to make his dream of making money a reality. The main thing he needs to do is to defeat the Crown Prince as the double representative, which is a big step forward. He knows he will do it by enrolling in the Royal Academy for that in 7 years, so he needs money for all of that, since he and his mother are already poor. He knows he will be poor to continue working hard, thinking of doing whatever job is necessary to make money quickly. He also knows about a secret scroll in the game that may be found 8 years from now. That's where Amy and the others will escape from the Imperial Guards through the sewer channels and find the scroll in the Forgotten Room. Even though he knows he's in the world of the game, the sewer smells real to him. He found the compartment where the items should be, but the room had no traps. He struggled to reach it for a while, but eventually managed to take the scroll. When he opened the scroll, it lit up on its own like in the game and gave him the skill of concealment. Alan realized he could learn 3 times a week for free in this world. He knew he had to work hard to get into school and change the future of the city and his mother. He thought about what he needed next, which was assessment skills. It seemed like an important skill to change the whole situation. However, the place where the scroll was hidden was very different from the smelly sewer. He realized he might be risking his life for it. After checking the rabbit horns in the wild, he decided to use his hiding skills. He moved through the streets more easily than before. He thought about searching for the ruins, but soon felt the need to go home before nightfall. He continued to move around the map, exploring different directions from the larger city. Thanks to his hiding skills, even as a village resident, he could roam the city as if he had free entry, feeling like a diplomat inside the city. On the 3rd day of exploration, he witnessed a rabbit fight. On the 4th day, he left with a bad feeling, the cold causing concern among his guild friends and mother. Finally, on the 5th day, he reached the ruins. The reward for his hard work was close. But just when he thought he was close to his destination, when he swiped the federal card that he felt was the perfect opportunity, he knew he was in the game world when others started entering the Alan drainage channel. Alan arrived just in time to admit he had been lost for a while. He was determined to do anything to make everything better this time after finishing the predicted work. People predicted that his mother would be upset because of their dirty appearance. They decided to race to the tent, with the last one having to fetch water. After reaching the tent, they found Monica inside naked. Everyone stared for a moment and then rushed out, but Monica forced Alan to hold her hand. His mother would scold him for it being dirty. Everyone outside heard a scream from Alan. After Alan left the tent, those people noticed Alan's butt shining as if polished. They decided to dress Alan at home. Alan was very excited to try new skills. Suddenly, his mother appeared behind him. He felt successful in making it happen. Later, he put his earnings on the table, and his mother advised him to calm down. She emphasized the importance of focusing on school. Alan realized he could learn 3 times a week for free in this world. He knew he had to work hard to get into school and change the future of the city and his mother. He thought about what he needed next, which was assessment skills. It seemed like an important skill to change the whole situation. However, the place where the scroll was hidden was very different from the smelly sewer. He realized he might be risking his life for it. After checking the rabbit horns in the wild, he decided to use his hiding skills. He moved through the streets more easily than before. He thought about searching for the ruins, but soon felt the need to go home before nightfall. He continued to move around the map, exploring different directions from the larger city. Thanks to his hiding skills, even as a village resident, he could roam the city as if he had free entry, feeling like a diplomat inside the city. On the 3rd day of exploration, he witnessed a rabbit fight. On the 4th day, he left with a bad feeling, the cold causing concern among his guild friends and mother. Finally, on the 5th day, he reached the ruins. The reward for his hard work was close, but just when he thought he was close to his destination, he noticed the approaching monster seeking shelter under the rubble. He faced a dilemma trapped, pondering how to use his current situation to his advantage. Surprised by the sudden appearance of a goblin, he realized his hiding skills were crucial for survival, worried it might soon be lost. He knew that more goblins would endanger his chances of obtaining the scroll skill as a double monster. He calmed his nerves and questioned why the situation had changed. Taking a deep breath, he decided not to turn back without finding the scroll. Believing in himself and the cheat skills from the game, he bravely approached the monsters, scribbling them to enter the ruins alone and explore his own underground space. As he entered, he noticed the floor illuminated by glowing moss. Unable to use a torch, he was lucky to have another light source to guide him through the cave as he continued his exploration. He stumbled upon the place surprisingly pleasant, hoping to avoid encounters with monsters like goblins. He decided to search for a room containing scrolls. Even though he saw many treasures that only crossed his mind to come across the scrolls while inspecting the room alone, the emergency treasure room looked like a treasure room made by the goblins, an element that was not present in the original game. He speculated that someone had modified parts of the game. Soon the goblin sniffed the air, suspecting something was amiss. But after his search failed, he ran away after being scolded by Goblin Alan, who used his hiding skills. He felt relieved when the goblin left, confident that his search for the scroll triggered the most surprising script change. The hidden scroll underground in the end room made him reflect on how lucky he was. Goblin didn't notice him after sneaking through. The goblin was like a magically hidden mouse that returned home. He was eager to develop his skills, so he immediately activated his appraisal skill, using his guild card as he completed the process. The feeling of progress swept over him, motivating him to work even harder. The people in his city began to recognize his contributions and express their gratitude. As time passed, he returned to the guild where he noticed everyone busy with various tasks. The Federation chairman, Rudolph, announced a significant discovery of ancient ruins in the northeast. The goblin's lair was talking about the potential conquest mission, reflecting on his past decisions to secure the scroll that Alan felt was an achievement. However, disturbing thoughts crept in, making him wonder if they would handle it differently if they knew that it was Amy who revealed it. Curious and unsure, he pondered what future challenges might unfold when he asked more about his situation. Rudolph let Alan know that he had to join the drain cleaning immediately. Alan asked about being on the team to defeat the goblin. Rudolph explained that he had already quit being an adventurer, he would only report the situation. When Alan showed that he was too skilled to leave his career, Rudolph finally revealed his fake leg, realizing that his situation was grimmer than he had hoped. It turned out that Rudolph was hit by an orc arrow in the knee, and now he had to use the fake leg as a replacement, quite expensive and making it difficult for him to work. Even though Rudolph looked like this, he moved forward in his career, trusting that he would soon be able to swing his sword. Rudolph declared his intention to continue, and a few of his subordinates gathered around him to examine the map. Alan observed this. Even after Rudolph retired, he was still loved and respected by everyone, making him an exemplary adventurer. From there, Alan kept himself busy by cleaning the waterways as usual. The next thing that crossed his mind was whether alchemy was needed to achieve the next goal. When his mother entered and asked what was going on, he stated that he would go out to buy some items and wouldn't be back until night. Seeing him dressed up, his mother assumed Alan was going on a date. It seemed Alan needed more than that. Even with 10 million cents in his hand, although he needed a total of 15 to buy it, he began to wonder how he could arrange it to get something. So, pay to win, to earn money. As he walked down the street, he noticed merchants selling goods at the market. The idea came to his mind that he could use the assessment skills he had acquired. After examining one item, he felt its uniqueness and considered buying it after further inspection. The shopkeeper explained the story of the item to him, even though the shopkeeper assumed it was for his girlfriend. Alan paid with his guild card to make more purchases. He thought ahead and planned to sell it to other adventurers or traders, even if it meant selling it for half the valued price. He was confident he would still make a profit. His goal was to reach 15 million cents. With enthusiasm, he showed the item to Rudolph after a thorough inspection. Rudolph suggested consulting an expert for a better opinion. The expert explained that the earrings were sturdy and fire-resistant. Gloves would significantly increase its value. Although Rudolph advised Alan to let the guild handle the sale, Alan was determined to do more and take over. Rudolph agreed, but he warned him of the potential problems if he were to sell it independently, leaving the item in the hands of experts. Rudolph shifted his focus to sword training during their sessions, always emphasizing the sword technique that strength does not lie in the sword itself, but in knowing how to use it effectively. As Rudolph continued to remind him not to neglect training, Alan realized that it was not enough to rely solely on the cheating skills he acquired from Rudolph's instructions. Alan, like a Spartan trainer, made him run around 100 laps and swing the sword 100 times. By the end of the day, Alan fell to the ground from exhaustion, and Rudolph assumed he could defeat him. A horned rabbit had passed by days ago, training by purchasing items while assessing and cleaning the ditch. Alan finally earned 15 million cents and is now 11 years old. After having breakfast, his mother asked where he was going. He admitted he was going to the market. His mother chuckled seeing her son all grown up, reminding him not to stay out too late since the next day would be something important. Alan went out and reflected on the hard work of the past year paying off, finding himself in a scary place. Alan decided to use his hiding skills to stay safe with scary eyes around him. After stripping off his disguise, he stood in front of the store and used his assessment skills to figure out the password. When he uttered the password, the door opened as if by magic. Inside, a hooded figure asked him what he was looking for, and Alan said he was looking for the alchemy scroll. The man praised his taste and offered it for 14 million, even throwing in some magical stones for free. When Alan used his assessment magic on the scroll and complained that it was just a regular scroll, the man realized Alan was not one to be fooled and praised his keen eye for detail. After seeing the original scroll on Alan's table, he asked if he could use it and offered to pay with his guild card. After the transaction, Alan decided that maybe the best thing to do was to avoid the place for the next 2 hard-working years. It paid off, and Alan got a satisfying end to his quest. Returning home to his mother, she noticed he was late and advised him to go to bed early for the important day ahead. The next day was his graduation exam, and he knew he could rely on his memories from his past life to succeed. The lack of importance given to elementary and middle school education in the village was evident, and his teacher, Alan, told him that he was now 11 years old and needed to take the exam. He took him for a walk and hid in a room, initiating the hourglass. Alan realized that the first part involved memorization, and as he neared completion, it seemed that only the geography part was challenging. After completing the exam, the teacher was surprised to find that less than an hour had passed, despite his urging to review the answers. Alan felt confident and wanted to leave when the results were published. The teacher ran towards him excitedly, revealing that he not only passed but excelled. But also achieving a perfect score in every subject he thought missing a grade at the age of 11 is very impressive, and I believe it will become a strong recommendation for high school admission. Expressing his desire to attend high school, Alan studies it 4 years away. Even though his wait decides to be patient, the teacher promised to deliver the recommendation and wonders how he will contact him after graduation. Alan suggests giving information to the Adventure Guild, since his mother usually goes to work and comes home he celebrates with his mother, whom he gave a demolition knife that he always wanted. Overwhelmed by the realization that his mother spent most of her income on the gift, he cries. His mother comforts him, expressing her only wish for his happiness. He vows to save his high school money, and even though his mother feels sorry for not managing it herself, he assures her that he will protect her without hesitation shortly after he received a notification that the age limit no longer applied to him, allowing him to take the entrance exam. Simultaneously, Alan became an adventurer with an F rank. At this point, he feels like it will be more than 3 years until he reaches a crucial stage in the game, contemplating the bad fate that will befall him considering ending it all. Monica immediately shouted congratulations on her achievement at such a young age, but Alan avoided her from the pub visitors who were also praising her improvement every day. Rudolph came in and patted her head, making her realize her worth. Rudolph explained that even without the protection of a swordsman or warrior, Alan would be fine with this protection working like a divine skill improvement and allowing special abilities. Amy has divine protection for healing, and the Crown Prince has protection for fire skills, making him a true protagonist hero class, despite being currently paralyzed. The old man, Rudolph, got protection as a swordsman, showing his extraordinary talent in swordsmanship. Alan is just a normal person with no special protection, considering it normal for now, but he knows he needs it. Rudolph guides him to improve and finally reach the E-rank status. Rudolph said it would take quite a long time because he was just cleaning the ditch earlier. Now he has to gather plants and hunt rabbit horns. He warned Alan to be careful since they have never been out of town before. Alan plans to start the next day's quest. Alan completed the mission in 2 days, knowing about the game making it easier. But the rabbit horns were still tough to deal with using his mother's knife. Alan improved his skills and directed his gaze to the Flying Dragon Valley, looking for wind magic from the Wind God's book that he needed to improve before entering high school, which he saw as the beginning of their adventure exam. At another time and place, Amy faced a fierce monster with Carl the dragon creature, accusing her of killing her husband despite Amy's protests. The monster attacked relentlessly, and Amy realized that things weren't getting any better. She released her offensive barrier to finish off the monster, but suddenly her child attacked from behind. Carl saved her, and although Amy felt remorseful, he comforted her, saying it had to be done. That's how it is. Alan remembered the magical fantasy event, and the sensation of school life kept spinning in his mind. He reminded himself of the need for the God's Wind book, recalling how they were called robbers by the wyvern they killed while looting. He felt emptiness in Amy's tears, sensing the world becoming dangerous. Alan decided to be cautious on his journey to the Flying Dragon Valley for the book he believed he had prepared for. In the village, closest to the valley, he could walk there in a day, realizing there was a fierce demon in the mountain that he wanted to avoid. Fighting using his stealth skills was unnecessary. He aimed to avoid danger and return safely. Just when he felt the need to better prepare for the mountain climb, he saw the wyvern flying above him as he observed the landscape of Dragon Soar Valley. The main difference between dragons and wyverns is that dragons can breathe fire and roar, while wyverns cannot. Wyverns are weaker than dragons. These thoughts made him realize it was not the time to think about it. Instead, he focused on building a camp before sunset, using his alchemy magic skills centered around the ability to create things quickly. In the camp, he considered what else he could do with his magic, such as crafting and strengthening armor, weapons, and potions with the magical stones he found. He could even maximize his ability to build a powerful cart, and even an item against the final boss, which turned out to be Anastasia, corrupted by darkness. After spending too much money and 3 years of hard work, Anastasia felt weakened temporarily. She wondered if it would be enough after spending the night at her campsite. She recovered to her original form in the morning and decided to visit the Wind Temple. Despite constant attacks from wyvern creatures draining the strength of anyone who approached, Alan confidently navigated the area using his stealth skills. When he arrived at the Wind Temple, he noticed a black lord wyvern lying in the middle. As he checked to see if it was asleep, he thought about sneaking in to collect the book, The Spirit of the Wind. The Wind God called out to him. He felt paralyzed and was told by the Wind God that he needed to ask for help. Trying to use his stealth skills failed, and the wind shown by the god prevented him from leaving. Clarifying that he was not there to harm, the man introduced himself as the Wind God. This introduction made Alan feel hesitant as he waited for the wind. He observed the handling of the wyvern named Jerome by the grace of God, tossing it around and asking it to wake up. When the wyvern finally woke up, the Wind God claimed that Alan would help them. Jerome introduced himself as a wyvern of the Lord when asked to shake hands with Alan. Jerome hesitated and hid behind the wind. The Lord reassured him that it would be okay. The Wind God then revealed that Jerome had fallen in love with someone else of the same kind named Melissa, who had the characteristics of a sky dragon. Alan did not fully understand the secret details, but the Wind God insisted that Alan needed to make their love story come true. If successful, divine protection would be granted, and the scroll would be handed over. As the Wind God took responsibility for it, Alan realized that it was impossible to take the book from the God of Wind. Alan felt it. He had to keep listening to the Wind of God promising to reward the wind that God didn't know much about the romance of lizards, so he handed everything over to Alan and then disappeared. Alan wondered about Melissa's appearance from afar as they observed the female wyvern. Jerome continued to hide his face out of embarrassment. When Alan noticed a ribbon around Melissa's tail, he realized he must have failed the mission, defeated by Amy and the Crown Prince. He understood the potential consequences if he didn't arrive on time like Alan and Jerome were talking about. He noticed Jerome's embarrassment and lack of knowledge about Melissa. Frustrated, Alan called Jerome, a stranger lurking around him. Alan suggested that Jerome become friends with Melissa first. Melissa demanded to know who he was, stating that she had never seen him before. Jerome felt like he was being treated like trash before flying away. Realizing their initial efforts failed on Alan, deciding Jerome needed to find a gift for Melissa. Alan asked the Wind God for Melissa's current location, and they waited. Jerome, the Wind God, was confident that Jerome, a great hunter, would make significant progress. However, when Jerome landed with a large worm in his mouth that he got for Melissa, she was scared and flew away. Alan chased Melissa in style, and Jerome flew, but it also failed. The Wind God speculated that Alan might have another strategy. Alan believed that dressing well was more important than trying to look fashionable. He was considered to be wearing decent clothes from his past life, including a suit and tie. He decided to make it using alchemy with magical stones from goblins. Alan finally made a great tie for Jerome, boosting his confidence. After using his abilities, Alan was tired, but Jerome was tired and happy with his new clothes. The Wind God then opened the window to show Melissa. Suddenly, they heard a scream, and Jerome's eyes widened as he realized Melissa was in danger, surrounded by many dragon people in panic. Jerome flew away to save his beloved Melissa as they reached the wyvern. Jerome emotionally insisted on getting Melissa away from the surprising danger, even though the dragon fought him. He begged Melissa to run for her safety as he tried to escape. One of the dragons tried to chase her, but Jerome caught its tail and slammed the wyvern away, realizing that Melissa was in danger that Jerome fought against all odds to protect her. Meanwhile, the Wind God and Alan chatted with Melissa. Melissa found the Wind God terrifying, and Alan felt on the verge of losing his composure as the dragon chased them. Alan noticed the danger as fast as the wind that the god brought to them, allowing them to speak freely. Melissa, unaware of the situation, listened as Alan explained that Jerome's friend was there to help when Jerome bravely fought the dragons. Melissa fell silent as Jerome fought and Melissa rushed to help him, finally waking up in surprise to find Melissa. He joked about his weight when Jerome tried to leave. Melissa held his tail, grateful for his rescue, and expressed her admiration with a kiss that satisfied Alan by uniting them, accepting a blessing from the Wind God. The god announced Jerome and Melissa's future gift after their marriage. They left, leaving Jerome confused, wondering if he was ready for that responsibility. The god disappeared, leaving Alan feeling strange, pondering the book of the Wind God. Alan considered Amy's absence, realizing she would not receive divine protection when she visited in 4 years. He contemplated the ongoing scenario as Alan investigated his thoughts. Jerome began to thank Alan. Alan confirmed that it was unnecessary to state that there was no need for it, thanking Alan as suggested in response. Alan avoided this place for the next 4 seasons as a form of gratitude, as Melissa entered the scene, expressing her thanks for the valuable decorations made. Jerome Alan noticed their friendship growing with the use of the nickname Sweet Melissa, feeling confident it would be available whenever needed as a gesture of gratitude. Alan agreed and prepared for it. He said goodbye as Jerome stumbled on the brink of tears. Melissa reminded him to be strong and emphasized the need to find their own place quickly. Jerome expressed his gratitude to Alan and flew away. Alan shifted his focus to completing the mission of helping the Wind God and obtaining divine protection to fulfill the unfinished task in Friesen Village. Alan decided to secure his high-speed transportation by building a glider even though learning wind magic was not part of Alan's initial plan. As a former flight engineer, he considered it useful for their current situation and was determined to build a motor glider. He prepared for future missions to reach the vast fields in the village. He cleared the runway for the glider with wind magic, even though his chanting felt awkward. Recognized for his skills surpassing the average person, adventurers praised him for his magical power. He then ominously thanked them, seeking the Wind God for useful magic. Alan began preparing the glider, working on the building, mapping, and using all the materials collected over time, applying alchemy to them. Afterward, he melted the materials together, and the glider was ready. The escape seemed perfect, so he decided to start a test run with it. He even infused some magic into the right handle and activated the Wyvern Magic Stone, accelerating him. He felt an unreasonable amount of output, forcing him to keep rising as he flew past the glider. Alan aimed for destruction to achieve his goal location, but he realized he forgot to clear the path where he built the glider, deciding to think about it later. He focused on reaching his goal because he had not flown since his university days in a previous life. He couldn't contain his excitement. Meanwhile, Anastasia sat with her friend Margaret and the servants as she noticed a strange bird-like object in the sky, assuming it might be one of the wyverns going in the wrong direction. They decided to report it as soon as possible. On the other hand, Alan realized he could already see the capital kingdom from his position. It felt like he had flown across the sky, saving a lot of time compared to taking a carriage. But as he pondered landing, he wondered if there was enough space in the bustling capital city streets without a parachute. He couldn't jump, so he saw a large lake, and hurriedly flew across the sky, deciding to land in the middle of the lake, planning to play it like a crow eyeing the water. He glided to the edge of the water to avoid wasting time. He believes that accelerating will result in better water. Landing right when he was about to do it, Alan started the reverse magic push, successfully entering the water with reduced impact even though he felt careless. He was relieved to find it, but most of his belongings were safe. He noticed that his improvisation alchemy technology began to burn, revealing hidden secrets behind it. Alchemy, although his flight was successful, Alan regretted losing 2 valuable items, the Wyvern Magic Stone and even a wing in one flight disaster. When he finally met Rudolph, he greeted Alan and realized that he had spilled water everywhere, making him somewhat curious about his belongings. As he began to talk about the situation, Alan left his mother, Monica, to scold the old man who said Rudolph must be the one who poured the bucket full of water on Alan's head. Alan sorted out the situation, and he started to worry he would catch a cold. He began to take him along to have a bath together with the assumption that it had already happened a long time ago. They hadn't bathed together. Instead of thinking about many things, the situation that Alan started to handle, the magical shower that was considered quite expensive in this world, he took the change of clothes he kept in the guild for himself. Even though he eventually completed his first expedition of life, he felt like he needed to reflect on many things. The more he remembered about his previous life, the more he felt like a failure as an engineer. The more he thought about the glider accident, the more he felt like he had a childhood like that in his previous life. Even after growing up, he continued to act like a child who kept making mistakes over and over again. As he sat in front of Lake Allen, he started wondering what modifications he could make to the glider next time to minimize the danger. After processing his thoughts for a while, he felt like he wanted to make a flying machine called the Vol Plane. It brought him to the front of the cheat item called Scroll of Many Songs, so he could make mistakes and continue experimenting with them at the same time. But all he remembered was that the scroll was in a difficult place. Nevertheless, he hoped to succeed in realizing it in any way possible. That's what he thought to move forward with the fusion of items, even though he wasn't sure about their placement. He felt like the new modifications would help him in various ways, and it seemed like a specially customized plane for the mission ahead of him to reach the goal he had ever ridden. Alan was flying the glider again to soar through the sky when he pondered 2 important things: the accuracy of his blueprint and the magical power needed to complete the heavy workload. At the same time, he considered the importance of cost-cutting, emphasizing savings. Finally, he achieved his goal while riding his newly made Sage Tower aircraft. While circling the tower with his aircraft, he reminded himself of the need to reach the top floor. He repeated the process of ascending and turning, realizing that the stratus clouds extended to about 2,000 meters above the ground. Upon reaching this height, he faced no disturbances from inside the tower. Realizing he was reaching the peak of the tower, he focused on his goal. He activated the wind magic engine, detached it, and left his seat in the aircraft. While flying in the air, He then channeled mana and gathered it in his hands. He aimed for the tower floor, opened the parachute, and landed safely right on target without any issues. He made his way to the top floor of the tower, overcoming his fear of heights. He stored the parachute in the storage area, took the cable, and successfully climbed the tower, feeling satisfied. He stood in front of the treasure he owned, considering the successful glider missile operation. After a short break, he approached the desired item, a scroll, with a sense of urgency for acquisition. He didn't want to waste time since his skills were already secured. Alan felt he was close to his final goal, just needing to decide on another skill. However, the realization that he had to leave this high position made him anxious. Gathering the best skills possible for now, he prepared to move forward after receiving wise advice from Sage, who usually helped people all over the world. He didn't need to utter any magic spells or mantras to use his powers. One day, while on his way to the fairy village to share potion ingredients, the wise man tragically perished, his soul trapped in this magical scroll. The scroll was the last item needed by Alan, but to find it, he had to navigate through hidden, intricate paths. In the illusion forest where the elves secretly reside, although Alan knows about them, he eventually has to go there. They also know that they have no urgent business in the elf village. The event involving the village will happen much later, so for now, all they can do is focus on their mission. He believes that finding his plane will be the highlight of his life, and he needs to do it soon before reaching Rinzea village, following the instructions from the guild association. At the same time, he has a lot of map problems from the guild that are outdated, and he got lost in the sky before reaching this illusion forest. It's bad considering the demons and powerful monsters in the area. He knows there is a time limit for hiding without help in this situation. After reaching the village, he decides to camp as the sun sets. He sees a landing spot outside the village, making it easier for him to land his plane using the vertical engine and activating the altitude control engine on both wings. He creates a comfortable descent to avoid risks after using his magic abilities, which make him bored, when landing. He saw the elf drawing his bow and arrow, making him distracted when the village chief questioned whether he was human, admitting his intention to reach the human village. He ended up in a protected place. The elf village created enmity. The village chief was surprised to see their power of protection should prevent humans from entering. Alan explained that he chose to enter using the sky. They realized that he meant the vehicle. He used it, but some doubted his honesty. They couldn't sense the magic within him. When the queen confronted him, he felt the need to hide all his abilities. They knew that the non-human race was different from humans. But when he mentioned receiving divine blessings from the wind, they felt more comfortable, even though they didn't fully understand the situation. The queen insisted that he help save them. The village treated him better. He revealed their struggle against the evil spirits in the approaching unknown forest. Alan was involved in the events. The queen expressed her pursuit of spirits, finding it difficult to believe but sensing their desperation for help. Due to the tense relationship between humans and elves, they hesitated to seek assistance from other races. However, with the presence of Alan, the queen knelt before him, expecting him to become their protector. At that moment, the village princess, known from the game, strongly disagreed, suggesting destruction as a better option. The queen advised her daughter, Sherry, to leave the room. Shortly after, the queen's friends rushed to inform her that the evil spirits had reappeared. Sherry didn't wait for her mother's advice to start running towards the commotion, realizing the urgency that Alan understood the need to take action as the guards flooded the area. Alan observed the evil spirits seemingly acting independently. The more he investigated, the more he felt it might be a curious witch bombarding the queen with questions about the mysterious person in this case. The state of Alan felt more in tune with the situation than the elves, however. His focus shifted when he realized a suspicious individual. The queen's concern allowed him to examine the scene more closely. The presence of the troublemaker spirit, in the midst of chaos that Sherry expressed her intention to eradicate evil with her bow and arrow, Alan realized he misunderstood the situation, as the arrow easily bounced off the person, deepening the mystery. Alan questioned the loyalty of the person, wondering who they were up against among the elves. The queen sensed the complexity of the situation and asked for Alan's help in this matter, a scenario that made Alan wonder about the mysterious person who suddenly posed a threat to the village. As they delved into the surprising identity of this figure, Alan was considered convincing, the individual initially labeled as a witch. However, the man insisted that he was a middle-aged virgin. Surprising Alan, after a few conversations, Alan was still curious and began to inquire further about the man's virgin status. The man explained that his parents had forced it upon him, revealing his name as Loringas. As Alan thought about this middle-aged man, he pursued a young girl, feeling increasingly uneasy as if a great crime was being committed. Alan questioned the man about his actions, and the man's response expressed a desire to meet the spirit of the village elves. He said that the spirit had been alive for thousands of years, but remained in the form of a little girl, considered lowly. The situation made the elves restless, suspecting something evil. Their spirits couldn't see the man and began to acknowledge, pushing him to handle the situation the elves were experiencing. Alan believed he could provide positive change. Alan started telling the witch to leave while accusing him of being a pedophile. The witch defended himself, insisting that he only admired beauty without any harmful intentions. As Alan thought about it further, he believed that the witch's actions were not as bad as he initially thought. When Alan showed the witch scaring the spirits, the witch finally admitted his mistake. Feeling remorseful, the witch fell to the ground, admitting that it scared the spirits, not Alan, who politely insisted that the witch had to leave. The witch was confused, mentioning going to the village of the elves, unaware that he was already there. Shocked by this information, Lingus tried to run towards the queen, but Alan stopped him as he seemed to have evil thoughts in the eyes of the elves. During their conversation, the witch began talking about the elixir, making Alan realize that it was probably the main reason for his presence. Alan then directed him towards the queen, the middle-aged elf, who then made a list of things she needed from the elves to make the elixir. When did Alan share this information with the queen? He thought it could be managed, and ordered his people to gather the necessary items for the potion's making. After inspecting the goods, the man felt like he finally had everything he needed and thanked Alan for the early help. Cheers from the left of the man were heard, everyone including the queen, who considered him someone even more superior. Sherry, who was captivated by him, assumed he had to be beneficial to the elves. The villagers kept urging him to take a break in their village, and Alan spent time at the hot springs inside the elf village. As he sat alone by the spring, he reflected on the situation and felt like he might have made a mistake throughout the whole event. An elf individual then approached and advised him to pay attention to his back. Alan, restless with the man's intentions from the start, after he finished his break in the spring, he began to hear a strange voice in the middle of the village. The queen announced that the spirit of light had been born, and a spirit began playing with a little child. The queen mentioned that it had been 800 years since the last light spirit was born in the human world, even though Alan felt a connection with something that happened in the game he played before. He was sure that Amy's birth had nothing to do with this event, as the spirit approached everyone appointed by Alan and thanked him, claiming he had saved his life that day, before explaining that he was the reason he could create the elixir, which turned him into a confusing spirit. Alan was wondering if the spirit was him, thinking based on the tone of the spirit mentioning that he had descended to a lower level to understand him better. Alan felt like he lost his mind, knowing that the spirit was no longer lingering. He had made a contract with Milie Lula Lula, the elf child, and his name is now Lou. After learning the news, the queen became very happy. Alan pondered what had happened with Amy, feeling on the brink of losing control. He reassured himself that it was not his problem at all. At that moment, Lou approached him with a scroll. When he asked about it, Lou explained that it was a scroll of songs he made for him. Lou wanted him to have it as a thank you for what he had done for him in this life. He shared what he had, spending his whole life trying to be humble, and now, thanks to Alan, he achieved it. Alan realized it was serious when he contemplated the situation. He felt the chaos and mixed emotions, getting something from a lewd, revealing his gratitude to everyone in the village for their support. Alan found Sherry repeatedly knocking on the glider to make sure it really flew, while the Queen decided to give Alan an amulet made with prayers from the elf village residents to function as a symbol of their friendship and offer support as a sign of appreciation for saving the village. When he prepared to fly, the Queen ordered everyone to step aside. Sherry was amazed to see that he could really fly. Alan assured them that he would come back to visit when he finally said goodbye to everyone. Lou waved to him. Alan thought about returning to his hometown. After completing the most important thing he had to do, now that he has completed the first phase of his life mission, he considered moving on to the next one. Alan believed he had everything he needed, and the only thing left was to increase his strength and level while thinking about how to improve himself. Rudolph asked if Alan was thinking about killing his goblin debut. Alan was indeed considering a new beginning before he could give a definite answer. Unexpectedly, Monica appeared and quickly pulled him closer, acting like a girlfriend, telling him not to worry his mother and never push himself too hard. She playfully slapped his back to distract his mind. That night, Alan then discussed the destruction mission with his mother, explaining that he would be away for a while because of the dangerous request. As he was being carried by his mother, thoughts of a future free from all problems filled his mind. He believed that when the time came, he would be able to protect his mother later. As Alan approached the shady and familiar old shop to sell the honey he received from the elf village, he felt it might be too expensive for someone like him to own. Despite his efforts to explain that he had secured it through a connection, the man insisted on offering $2 million for the honey. Alan accepted the offer, but the man continued to ask for more. Alan was confident he could handle it, even though it would take time. When he asked for the magic bag, the shopkeeper laughed, claiming that such a thing did not exist, not even in dreams. The shopkeeper's words, disbelieving in Alan, made him sure that such a bag existed in the world. He decided to leave the shop for a while because he imagined the success of the future expedition driven by his own improvements, allowing him to make progress. He entered the village and met the village chief, who explained that they were struggling to find help. Alan decided to stay in the village, and the old people offered him free accommodation, but he had to pay for his own food. Alan couldn't stop thinking about the goblins he would hunt. After pondering it for a while, Alan came up with the idea of using the AK-47 Kalashnikov he had, along with the concealment magic, to explore the suspicious forest where there might be a labyrinth where goblins appeared, ready for a fight. He entered the forest and soon spotted a goblin, shooting it from a distance, wondering if it really fell down near the monster. Falling, he realized he had successfully taken it out with 3 chest shots, obtaining a magic stone. As Alan continued to use the gun, the fight started to feel easier, seeming like an illusion to him. In the end, he had defeated 12 goblins, making him feel more capable and in control of the situation. After Alan made the payment he wanted to, he was ready to do it again. One day, he considered going to the labyrinth, even though he spent a week in the forest without meeting any goblins who would take him there. He decided to venture into the labyrinth he knew. Facing and defeating the goblins attacking the village was an important event. But this game raised one's level of challenge. The challenge was that the labyrinth was guarded by tough bosses. The real goal of destroying the labyrinth remained a mystery to everyone. Alan began to question whether it was truly necessary to completely destroy the labyrinth to navigate through it. Alan used the magical lantern he bought at the guild for 300,000 coins, so that this item could be illuminated by Mona without producing heat or smoke. As Alan explored the labyrinth, he encountered 2 goblins who felt they couldn't hide effectively because of the lantern's light. He attracted more goblins while using the lantern. Alan directed himself towards a soccer ball-like object, and the situation made him nauseous, reminiscent of the labyrinth memories rushing back. Despite the challenges he faced, he quickly navigated through the labyrinth and finally reached its lowest floor, the 5th floor. Here, a hall with a core was immediately guarded by a powerful boss. He met the Goblin King, considering the best approach. he decided to target the monster's minions first, realizing that dealing with the biggest threat was crucial. He used his wind magic to make the minions disappear, targeting the Goblin King. He began shooting at the giant monster, the king experiencing incredible pain as he attacked, and the monster retaliated by attacking him with a large hammer. Despite Alan recalling his experiences from video games, he realized it was still tough, but like his weapon was out of ammo, he threw the last bomb towards the monster. The explosion caused the monster to scream in pain as if facing death's touch. Taking advantage of the opportunity when the monster opened its helmet to scratch its head, Alan used his powerful Kalashnikov to do so, vanishing the monster's head. This reaffirmed to him once again that the game's strategy was effective. Even after Alan blew up the monster's head, he saw the large body trembling in silence, worried. He prepared the cutting wind in case the creature was not dead yet. Once the body stopped moving, he realized that collecting the magic stones would be a big problem, which he finally achieved the core of the labyrinth that he knew destroying it would make everything disappear. Touching the core would instantly return him to the entrance, back to the guild. He shared his experience of obtaining the labyrinth to the admiration of everyone. However, the fake praise made him feel embarrassed. Monica, famous for her ample chest, came to greet him, but Alan had already left the guild. Goblin Stone's magical property to get a better price, hoping for recognition for defeating the underground prison. Alan anticipates gaining status and more money. He decides to buy the new one the next day, bringing him one step closer to the future he dreams of his mother so. Alan returned home, his mother reaching out to him despite the dirt on his body. She asked if he could have gotten hurt during his journey, and Alan explained that he had just navigated a goblin maze. When asked how he was doing, he insisted he was fine as they chatted about the neighbors. Alan listened with curiosity. Soon after, his mother brought up the topic of him spending more time indoors. She believed that the money he earned should be his to spend, regretting not having more space for him to store his belongings. Alan mentioned that he was considering moving out for various reasons, wanting to provide his mother with a better life, and suggesting that she stay with him. She could be a good option. He expressed his desire for her to continue handling household chores as she always did. However, his mother considered him foolish for considering such a thing. She clarified that all she wanted was for him to live a happy life, and she didn't want to burden him with household responsibilities. Realizing that Alan had the next day off, they decided to do it. Looking for a house, they immediately contacted Rudolph to discuss the new idea. Alan's mother asked about Alan causing trouble for them, except Rudolph said Alan was fine. They formally introduced themselves to the old man, who praised Alan as the most promising with a perfect track record. The old man mentioned that Alan was a low-ranking adventurer, and when the party was held, Alan felt the need to organize it but was worried about the minimal commission. Discussing the arrangement of life in the guild, the old man suggested not to do it. Alan then asked if the old man could recommend a good real estate agent for them. Not long after, Monica entered and asked Alan if he was thinking about moving. They chatted briefly about it, and when Alan mentioned considering the new place Monica suggested, he could come to his house any time, making Alan even more nervous. He couldn't quite understand her intentions at first. Monica continued to explain it to him. Her father managed the apartment building and offered to show Alan and his family around. She thought it would be a great idea for them to check it out. The older man agreed with Monica and stated that they would all be safe there. When the topic of money came up, Alan felt confident that the house prices had increased, so he thought they would be fine with Monica's earlier offer. They set off to his place. Alan's mother insisted on greeting guild members for a while. Monica then approached Alan, asking what he imagined after hearing he invited him to his house. Alan understood she was teasing him, and they all headed to the apartment building to check it out. Monica claimed they could own the top floor, mentioning it wasn't popular because it was challenging to navigate. But Alan thought it would be easier for them since they had to reach the 5th floor in their current residence. The situation as they entered the room, Alan realized it was bigger than his previous one, so he considered making his bedroom bigger because it offered a clear city view, and he could fit a lot of things in there. When his mother understood the price he mentioned, she thanked Monica for helping them. She mentioned that Alan could be considered a good investment, a difficult idea for him to accept. When he returned to the guild, his parents asked about the situation, and Alan explained that they were staying with Monica in the same building as the people in the guild. They were impressed to see someone so young showing genuine concern for him. His mother burst into cheers when Alan achieved something new. One of the guild members, Jared, invited the others to help their devoted son, Alan, by moving furniture and luggage. Alan insisted they didn't need the trouble, but he was determined to keep helping. Even Alan's mother thanked her for having supportive friends. Alan began to feel happy with the situation he witnessed, yet he felt a warm light inside him, knowing that they were not great in many ways when they worked together. Alan felt they were an unusual group carrying things around his mother's house. Alan even shed tears of gratitude during the process. After completing the task, Jared thanked everyone who had been with him during the tough times when the group situation became calm, suggesting to have a feast to celebrate. Alan's mother thanked them for the support they received and hoped they would stay at home as long as possible. Alan was determined to improve their lives, feeling a strong urge to protect those around him. When everyone gathered to share drinks, it was started by an old drunk man who talked about how beautiful Alan's mother was. They all competed to become Alan's future father-in-law, except Rudolph, who told them to stop the uncomfortable topic. Just when Alan felt relieved, Rudolph announced that he was the one pursuing Alan's mother. Alan couldn't accept seeing his master hitting his mother that night ended with a beautiful event. The next morning, Alan resumed his work, honing his skills to fight monsters and earn more money in the goblin maze using the same technique. Over time, Alan earned the title of Goblin Slayer due to his perseverance and dedication to eradicating goblins. Shortly after the bipedal wild boar appeared in the forest targeted by Alan and shot it with his machine gun, he unintentionally killed one of the orc brothers. Alan was in the forest known as Orc Forest, where people had established a forest area to handle the monster attacks carried out by the orcs. The mountain orcs were a threat to humans, but their meat was a valuable threat to the local residents, creating this area to survive against the monsters. Alan took on the task of reducing the danger without his knowledge that these orcs were connected to a large orc labyrinth, which was the next target for Alan to level up and get rewards. Alan used shape-shifting hollow bullets to increase the area of destruction, especially using them for hunting given the toughness of the orcs. He used a hummingbird and a Kalashnikov to fight stronger opponents. He decided to explore the labyrinth the next day. At night, Alan enjoyed the meat of the orc he killed, experiencing a strange ecstasy. Strangely, he appeared before us naked. The next day, he visited the Grand Orc Labyrinth, which was similar to a regular maze, to defeat the weaker orcs before reaching their boss. Instead of collecting meat, he gathered magical stones from them. As a result, there was no room for meat in his bag. Consequently, the final boss, along with the average bosses from before, awaited him. Eventually, he decided to employ the same tactics as before. Initially targeting the orc sorcerer and priest, he created a smoke screen followed by activating an unexpected invisibility. The main boss retaliated with magic attacks. Looking up, he realized the king was controlling the attacks against him. He decided to sever the connection they needed to separate them, creating another anticipated smokescreen. Monsters attacked from behind. Alan was surprised when they used chili extract from the opposite side, while the monster froze in disbelief. He shot them all with his machine gun during the chaos that had been healed by the Orc King's eyes, making him a tough opponent. The monster struck a pose against Alan, even though he periodically shot at it, his bullets bouncing off. Alan managed to avoid the Orc King's attacks, causing the monster to hit the wall. Despite being scared, Alan managed to escape unharmed. He quickly activated his stealth ability and switched his weapon to a Kalashnikov, aiming at the Orc King's vulnerable spot between its eyes and heart. Alan shot the monster, making the Orc King aggressively approach him without hesitation. Alan fired again, the monster hitting the wall once more. Alan anticipated the next move rolling on the field, ready for the next attack. It surprised him, realizing that the Orc King succumbed to the fatal shot in its heart. even though the space inside was limited. Alan decided to take some monster meat in the heart of the labyrinth. Alan stumbled upon a treasure trove of a fertility bracelet that increases a woman's chances of pregnancy. This left him puzzled, questioning why such an item was included in the game, despite him emerging as the conquest winner of the orc maze in our elven village. We used to see a peaceful atmosphere in that place, a playground for children that has now turned into a frequently visited airport by Alan from the village to buy honey. The villagers are always friendly, helping him take care of the airport, a favorite spot for children to play games, including archery. Sherry, as usual, keeps kicking Alan's plane, but luckily it never breaks. When Alan celebrated his 13th birthday, he became eligible to level up to D and earn the title of Orc Queen Slayer. She told him that the glider he requested to be included in his possession was now his, and he thanked her for offering it for free. Alan insisted on paying, explaining that his mother liked him as a queen, then asked about Alan's next journey. The journey he revealed would take him to the wind window of the mountain labyrinth. In this labyrinth game, the difficulty level is 30, much more challenging than the Orc Labyrinth and Dragon Valley at level 15. At the end of the mountain, Wind Labyrinth awaited the heavy snowstorm Phoenix, a formidable opponent that Alan was not yet ready to face. Facing the Fairy Queen, he asked about the danger level of the maze, but Alan reassured her that he could overcome it thanks to the talisman she had given him. As they spoke, our former resident, Lon, the spirit of light, approached them and expressed his concern about not joining Alan on his journey. This made Alan somewhat relieved, because there was a strange person following him. In the Wind City, within the Zyven Guild, Alan approached the mission to conquer the Wind Mountain Labyrinth alone. The Guildmaster was surprised by his decision, but gave him permission to proceed. It is crucial to enter the labyrinth with permission. Otherwise, any items obtained will be considered stolen. Guildmaster instructed Alan to contact him only at the first level, but Alan assured him that he would proceed with caution. Among experienced adventurers handling the MA conquest alone, his approach seemed reckless to others. The Wind Mountain Labyrinth holds the record for conquering a 30-level labyrinth with only 8 levels. It is a complex maze with challenges, yet Alan had a trump card, his new Saiga 12 shotgun, breaking adventurer records. This allowed him to reach level 28 with a floating island where wind manipulation powers could move you in different directions. Alan discovered the hidden treasure room at the bottom of one of the floating islands. Instead of using conventional methods, he used his sense of smell to make his moves and claim his prize. Among the treasures was a ring that could bring someone back to life once if they died. With determination, he took both rings and walked towards the door leading to the main boss. Before facing the Snowstorm Phoenix boss, Alan decided to seize another treasure of the snowstorm. Phoenix attacked Alan, releasing spikes of ice, but Alan anticipated this and created a shield beforehand. After surviving the first attack, the remaining attacks were just a combination of stealth and machine gun bullets. The bullets hit Phoenix, but he quickly stepped back. Alan tried to activate stealth mode, but Phoenix attacked him with a snowstorm and ice arrows. This slowed Alan down, who then created a large rock to hide behind while regrouping. Phoenix continued his magical attack, but Alan decided to use his bow from a distance and then activated his invisibility before shooting Phoenix. He created another boulder to hide behind, waiting for Phoenix's attack to stop before striking Phoenix several times. Phoenix was severely injured, and Alan hid behind a rock again. When he emerged from his hiding spot, he saw the bird fall and slipped, falling on the frozen ground. He managed to stop just before Phoenix fell, keeping him alive. Alan finished off Phoenix and then started to dismantle his body. Surprisingly, Phoenix's feathers remained beautiful even after being removed. Alan also decided to collect the bones, which turned out to be very light inside the treasure chest. He found the Sky Knight's sword. This weapon bestows the blessing of a knight user and allows for an upgrade to Sky Knight along with the additional gift of Wind Magi. The most valuable discovery in the labyrinth is the enlarged magic stone synthesizer. The smaller magic stones, when combined, increase their value. Alan plans to use the synthesizer every time he returns to the labyrinth he completed to keep the details of his progress a closely guarded secret in the city. Mr. Rudolph noticed that Alan was still involved in the cleanup of the ditch. Alan explained that he only did this during his spare time when asked by Rudolph. Alan's plan for the coming year, as he is now 14 years old and eligible to attend high school. Rudolph asked Alan for help with the related guard duties, which would help him raise his level and reputation. Alan was initially not interested and tried to refuse because he was afraid it might reveal too much about his fighting abilities. However, when Jared arrived with other adventurers announcing they were ready to work with him, Alan found himself facing unexpected challenges and constant demands. Rudolph set the schedule for 7 a.m., and Alan was caught in his alcohol-scented breath cloud, realizing that he didn't have many options but to comply with what was found. He is on a protection mission accompanying a little girl named Carlin, along with her brother Dirk. Their journey is to a small village where Dirk regularly delivers important supplies like firewood, coal, and dried meat from the capital of the Carl Kingdom. The enthusiastic young girl is very interested in wind magic and quickly forms a close bond with some other adventurers, including the tough Jared who joins them on this journey. However, Carlin is hesitant to approach Jared because of his intimidating appearance. Along the route, they follow LED through a treacherous mountainous region known for bandit activity, which is Al's team's responsibility to protect the caravan from these threats despite the tension. Carlin and Alan's mission went smoothly, and he had grown quite attached to it. Alan had left his powerful Kalashnikov rifle behind, but he carried a small Marov pistol hidden under his clothes. While he might appear tough to others, Alan struggled with the moral dilemma of whether he could use it to fight for the lives of people who were not like the monsters he used to deal with. Carl's interruption broke his contemplation, and he asked about his well-being while Jared issued a warning, explaining that the road ahead would narrow, making them vulnerable to bandit attacks. The horse-drawn carriage pushed forward, but suddenly a barrage of rocks began to rain down from the nearby cliff, blocking their path. Dirk quickly stopped the carriage, and the bandits swiftly surrounded the car, brandishing their knives and demanding their belongings. The adventurers ordered Dirk to stay inside the carriage while they unsheathed their swords and prepared their bows. In the midst of this tense standoff, a small battle ensued, with one adventurer successfully attacking. One of them, bandit leader Jared, ordered Alan to employ his magical abilities against the bandits. Although Alan was skilled in dealing with monsters, he found himself struggling with what techniques to use on humans. When one bandit almost attacked a fellow adventurer, Alan quickly used his wind magic to injure Asant. The other bandit, now realizing his extraordinary abilities, panicked and fled. Jared then ordered Alan to eliminate the remaining bandits, but Alan's compassion and moral dilemma hindered him, causing the bandits to escape while the other adventurers celebrated their victory. Jared, furious, directed his anger at Alan, the 14-year-old boy who had saved lives from the bandits. Alan, confused, explained that he couldn't bring himself to kill people. Jared emphasized the importance of eliminating such threats, as they could turn into monsters that could harm others in the future. Jared firmly ordered Alan to step back into the departing train. Confused, Senpai asked Alan to help clear the rocks from the road, quickly completing the task to ensure a safe journey to the village. Their arrival was greeted with joy by the villagers, and the children were involved in the excitement. The village's business was bustling, and the villagers rushed to help unload the cargo, especially the girls who enthusiastically checked the clothes before bringing them inside. Carlin initially wanted to look cool and different, but eventually chose a dress that she liked. Dirk asked everyone for the goods. Alan silently observed as Jared asked why their mission would fail if he was the leader. Alan bluntly replied that it was true because he didn't kill bandits. Jared admitted his mistake by stating that there wasn't much difference between monsters and bandits. He vowed not to do it again next time. Alan understood his words at that moment. Their conversation was interrupted by Carlin and a group of small children who wanted to see his wind magic. Jared decided to leave, allowing Carlin to entertain the children as the sun set below the horizon. Alan continued to demonstrate his wind magic, finally sending the children back home and bringing a lively village celebration. a traditional event to welcome male visitors, despite the friendly host villagers. This village has a unique tradition where men from afar come to fertilize women to prevent blood clotting during the Allen celebration. Allen was surprised when an older woman invited him to bed, leaving him confused. The peculiar bee Kukai felt like she stumbled into an otome game planned by the group to stay in the village for 3 days. The peace of the night was disturbed next to the bed, sounds of activities echoing from the neighboring room that Allen later noticed. The tired man emerged from the overnight accommodation as they did not have their own wives. Allen intended to spend the next day playing with the children, but the village had delivered bad news. Carlin had been kidnapped. The announcement made Allen feel terrified and worried about his safety and that of his young friend Carlin and the other children who were kidnapped while playing outside the village's protective walls. After hearing the sad news, Allen quickly changed into his adventure gear, feeling guilty and thinking that his failure to confront the bandits had led to the current terrible situation. This situation triggered his regret, determined to save Carlin and the other kidnapped children. He blamed himself for all the difficulties. Allen approached Jared, admitting that the kidnapping was his fault for not taking decisive action against the bandits earlier. Jared agreed with Allen's assessment, but advised him to stay calm. He explained that he would handle the rescue mission alone because adventurers usually only intervene in cases requested by the village, and the bandit leader had sent a letter to the village with demands for the safety of the lord of the house. The letter stated that the village needed to provide food, money, and anything else the resistance would result in death. Jared's words from the captive children served as a harsh reminder of the serious consequences of their past meeting with the bandits. When Allen fell into deep silence, the other adventurers pondered his challenge. Jared then asked Allen directly if he was now ready to kill the bandits to save the kidnapped children. Remembering Carlin's innocent and charming smile, Allen responded with a newfound determination, confirming his readiness to take lives to save the innocent adventurers. He decided to accept the village's request despite the moral dilemma it posed. At this crisis moment, Dirk, Carlin's older brother, grabbed Allen's hand and begged him to save his brother. Allen made a promise to Dirk to do whatever it takes to save Carlin. Accompanied by Jared, he embarked on a mission to track down and confront the bandits who kidnapped Carlin and other children from the village. Jared explained that there were only a few places where the bandits could hide, and they were just a few hours away from their current location. They reached a vantage point in the forest from where they could observe the bandit hideout. The hideout was located in a cave with a spacious interior, indicating the presence of around 30 bandits. Allen was determined to approach the hideout stealthily, a decision that Jared initially thought was reckless. However, Allen was confident in his ability to sneak around and believed there might be fewer bandits inside the cave than anticipated. Jared questioned his actions, wondering what they would do if they found around 10 bandits inside, but Allen remained unfazed. Allen convinced Jared that he had a plan after testing his magic. He asked Jared to trust him, emphasizing the importance of children's lives at stake. Jared hesitated to trust him but warned that if Allen failed, his children would fail too. Allen thanked Jared for his trust and went to their hiding place together. Senpai hid and waited for his signal, carefully navigating the area. Allen used his invisibility magic to make himself almost invisible, ensuring that he would not be detected as he approached the bandits' hiding place, a cave in the mountains. At the cave entrance, a guard stood who had been present during the attack on the train. Despite his anger, Allen restrained himself from killing, silently entering the cave using his appraisal magic. Allen assessed the inside of the cave, realizing it was larger than he had previously thought. Now his main goal was to find the kidnapped children inside the cave. As he searched the area, he counted around 13 bandits and identified 3 different paths within the cave. Along one of the paths, there were 2 children locked in a cage, but Carlin was not among them. Determined to find her, Allen continued forward, following the sound coming from the nearest door. Upon opening the door, he was met with a heartbreaking scene, a man attempting to harm Carlin in a fit of rage. Alan quickly used his fists to subdue the man until he no longer posed a threat. Carlin, scared but relieved, found herself safe once again in the midst of danger. In this situation, Alan reached out his hand to ensure her safety, a mix of embarrassment and delight almost causing her to scream his name. However, Alan quickly silenced her, urging her not to make any noise to keep calm. Carlin grabbed his hand and led him to a safe place while he saved the other children. He sealed the room with a stone to prevent anyone from finding it, activated the hiding, and continued to the prison room with the children. Alan met a guard sitting with a pistol. After hesitating for a moment, he shot the guard in the head, and the man immediately perished. Although the children were scared and crying, Alan urged them to be quiet, brought them to Carlin, and convinced everyone to make thinner stones to close the room from the inside, asking the children to cover their ears. Alan drew a seal of a spell that was seen by the bandits who followed his instructions, and the bandits were unable to understand the situation, mesmerized as Alan summoned his power because of the explosion. Jared was very surprised and realized that it was a signal he had mentioned that Alan ordered the children to stay inside, and he went out to check the situation. He saw a group of severely injured people, but they were still breathing, considering whether to disappear them, but choosing to prioritize the evacuation of the children at that time. One of the bandits who was still alive tried to attack him with a knife in his mouth, but Jared quickly knocked him down. Alan was surprised to see Jared and felt relieved. He ordered everyone to return to the village as they left the cave. Alan praised Carlin for his great job in taking care of the children, overwhelmed with emotions, crying, and hurriedly hugged Alan and Jared. The bandit leader's head who attacked the children was hung on the village's fence as a form of public humiliation, after Grimm instructed his senpai to instruct Alan to prepare for their journey back to the capital, while the other adventurers returned to trade with the surviving bandits in a world where failure to defend oneself could result in death, because the need to eliminate such cruel bandits seemed to be emphasized. This bitter reality is clear to Alan, and it is a lesson he needs to learn. The adventurers put their belongings into the carriage to prepare for their return to the capital. As they make this preparation, 3 children approach Alan to express their gratitude for his heroic actions in saving them. Also asking if he would show them his wind magic someday, Alan happily promises them while smiling, and as a group prepares to leave the children, bid farewell after the guild finished analyzing Alan's task of becoming the youngest adventurer to receive a C ranking. Alan finally turned 15 years old. Katerina was surprised that he did a good job tying his tie. She was upset because she couldn't tie it for him. She then hugged him, expressing her pride and wishing him success. Today is an important day we have all been waiting for so long. Alan finally started his school life at the Royal Academy. All new students were welcomed by the headmaster and asked to take their seats for the annual roll call. This year's list included our young talent, with 39 people enrolled. Alan could enter the second class on the list along with all the nobles. All his classmates were nobles, and commoners were not allowed to communicate with them first. So Alan might not be seen at that time. The person who made Alan's blood and heart beat faster appeared in the corridor. Yes, the main villain of his game was Anastasia Kleiner von Ramslet. She was beautiful and exuded a majestic aura. She looked towards Alan, making him nervous. I can't believe it. In game after game, characters like Oscar von Wimlet playing with his son from the richest man in the kingdom and Marcus Wimlet, who wears glasses that match his father's, a blessing from the wise man who is the son of the kingdom's sorcerer, and also Leonardo von Jukes, whose father is the commander of the kingdom's guard, and Claude Justine de Westerdale, the prince of another country who has the blessing of the king. All these characters are effective in the game, and all the girls are crazy about them. They look at Alan and say that it's quite normal, which makes him a little angry. His main target character, the Crown Prince Karl-Heinz Bartili von Centralen, appears to be the center of attention for all the other girls, and they truly admire him. He really has the aura of a crown prince, and now, the main character of the whole story, Amy von Brias, appears. Amy warmly greets Alan and mentions that she knows his name. The unexpected attention makes Alan wonder how she knows him. Amy recounted her experience of being born into an ordinary family and attending the same school as Alan. She expressed her admiration for his rapid progress through classes with perfect grades, which prompted her to start a conversation with him. This was a surprising and unexpected development in a story that Alan had completely forgotten about. But according to the game plot, he was supposed to talk to the prince first, not her. When Amy asked if there was something wrong with her, he didn't say anything as expected from the Otomi game. It turned out to be very funny. Weeks after the school opening ceremony, Alan prepared to move to the school dormitory, indicating that he wouldn't be able to visit for some time. Katerina expressed her desire to miss him and asked if he had made any friends, although Alan answered in the affirmative. In reality, most of them were ignored in school. His classmates didn't pay much attention to him, and Amy, after becoming the Crown Prince's girlfriend, started to ignore him. During the magic lesson, the teacher explained how to use magic and control its power. When asked who managed to perform magic, only a few people raised their hands, including him. The professor then called the Crown Prince to show his other abilities, thinking he was cool. The Crown Prince agreed and activated it, thanks to the fire he directed at the target, successfully hitting it and receiving applause from everyone. Next was Anastasia, who expressed her willingness to try. The Crown Prince ignored her appearance, showing signs of dislike towards her. He activated his power by shooting an arrow at his target, completely destroying it, surprising everyone, including Alan, who did not expect this from the boss of the last fall game. Instead of receiving admiration, the Crown Prince became angry, accusing Anastasia of mocking him. He tried to explain, but his anger increased, determined to show his true power. He asked her to step back as he activated his power. But suddenly his magic exploded in his hands quickly towards Anastasia's feet, reacted by building an ice wall to prevent further damage and protect the other students. She really wanted to talk to the Crown Prince, but when she approached, she saw Amy already by his side, holding his hand and using her magic. This made her angry. Alan worried that Amy's healing wouldn't work, but it did, and the Crown Prince woke up. Anastasia offered him a handkerchief, but he just ignored her, thanking Amy instead. Amy felt embarrassed when mentioned she couldn't do more for him, which made Anastasia a little upset, leaving them alone. This part of the game ended quickly, but in real life healing takes time. Amy grinned and said she didn't do it like Anastasia. She looked like a bad person after Amy and the Crown Prince, Carl, became close, and the other girls became jealous. Amy openly showed no support in their game, disappearing. After the Civil War, Anastasia appeared and told them that they should feel ashamed for saying and doing vulgar things that she asked them to stop, and the girls apologized and obeyed her at the same time. Amy, who was seeking attention, made a cute face and complained to people that everyone was avoiding her. People supported her, and Amy used intimidation to get closer to them. Alan thought that Amy's character was different from the one in the game, which did not depict such events, which he did not know if everyone was following the game scenario. Considering that Amy was originally a commoner who later became a noble, she had to attend a noble school and face intimidation, relying on her sweetness and charm as the only way to succeed. After that, the graduation scene of Amy in the bathroom confused Alan, making him wonder why the writer portrayed this detail. In class, the girls supported Anastasia or the Crown Prince without anyone supporting Amy. Even though the girls tried to mock Amy, she defended herself. The Crown Prince's supporters understood that he was using Amy to keep Anastasia away, but they didn't sympathize with Amy because the prince ignored his people outside of school. They were aware of this and might be planning something against the Crown Prince. The selfish Crown Prince only cared about his opinion and ignored everything else, which was sad for Alan's academic life. He lived peacefully like a shadow, unnoticed by others. When summer vacation arrived, students had to prepare a research paper to rest. This paper would have a big impact on their next semester's placement. The aristocrats who ranked last considered it important, which surprised Alan. Anastasia personally approached him, knelt down, and asked for his help, stating that for Ides, Alan didn't need to be a scholarship student and be at the top of the class, surprising him. Anastasia asked if he had experience with the labyrinth, which Alan confirmed he mentioned having a message, and bid farewell to her while apologizing for the initial disturbance. Initially confused by the term messenger, Alan thought Anastasia might follow him, but a few days later, everything became clear. She was asked to be the character guide for the Automy game, making her have no choice but to agree when she questioned their readiness. The Crown Prince arrogantly confirmed that they were prepared as a result. They reached the Goblin Labyrinth ruins that everyone had experienced before. Amy was repeatedly warned by others to be careful and not to fall. Anastasia felt annoyed by the constant advice and felt cold about the game initially. They were supposed to be accompanied by another adventurer. Unless the game scenario changed when Anastasia turned to him in the labyrinth. Everyone was amazed by the glow of the surrounding environment, but they complained about various things. However, when Amy started talking about the beauty of the Shining Opinion, the walls changed and praise began to flow with a feeling of annoyance, believing that Anastasia was on the brink of exploding destruction. When he saw it, he saw the beautiful scenery. Anastasia looked divine and made Alan feel embarrassed. Amy asked about the presence of monsters, but Alan explained that this place used to be a goblin labyrinth, and adventurers had destroyed their lair, so there are no monsters now. The prince's crown began to complain about the purpose of hiring them, and Alan suddenly apologized. Amy started looking for something, which pushed Alan to ask what she was doing, making the prince's crown angry. Alan once again asked for forgiveness. Everyone became bored, and no one paid attention to Alan's story except for the beautiful Anastasia, who found them interesting. Alan noticed Amy searching the ground again, where the assessment scroll was hidden before everyone reacted differently to this labyrinth, which seemed surprising to Amy. When Alan asked her what she was thinking, she said she was thinking about the usefulness of the adventurer she was looking for. The scroll was hidden in the right place before making Alan realize that she was indeed the same reincarnated person from the Automy game world. After completing their exploration in the labyrinth, everyone left, and people started approaching Amy again. Anastasia thanked Alan for taking them away, and she smiled, considering it an honor. In the game world, Anastasia showed more jealousy, but now she seemed calm, as if the game world was slowly changing. Anastasia then invited Alan to go shopping with her the next day, and he agreed. They decided to meet in front of the school gate on the day of the meeting. Alan nervously waited in front of the school when suddenly a carriage arrived, and Anastasia stepped out, looking stunning. She apologized for keeping him waiting, and they got on the carriage. He thanked her for agreeing to accompany him, and they shifted the conversation to their recent expedition, where they consulted with experts. Anastasia explained that she had arranged a meeting with a researcher in the field of mazes and local historical ruins, where Alan was surprised by her dedication to this effort. She told him that the Crown Prince and Prince of the Western Dale were also involved in this report, and the success of this project was important for the future of their country and the peace between the two nations. Alan felt compelled to help her, despite the challenges they faced with the nobles they encountered along with various scientists and researched materials from the previous report. Initially, no useful information emerged, but with their determination, they persevered through the difficulties and eventually succeeded in completing the report. After receiving the disputed report, the Crown Prince claimed it was too long. He requested that they summarize everything in just 3 minutes, even though Alan was annoyed and had no desire to help the spoiled prince. He noticed Anastasia's reluctant gaze as she explained the report to the Crown Prince, simplifying it so he could understand and saying it was a good job. His Highness left the room, leaving Alan frustrated with the situation. Anastasia apologized to Alan for the prince's behavior. The prince's sad expression weighed heavily on him, and he seemed like someone forced to endure an unwanted fate. Despite his annoyance and frustration with the aristocracy, Alan continued to support him, as their report was highly appreciated among the academy professors and beyond. Everyone admired the two princes, the main authors, and he was criticized for it. Fortunately, Alan managed to have his name included, but he had to bear it until winter. After winter, he planned to defeat the prince and others, then leave school. Fall arrived, marking the upcoming cultural festival, while everyone excitedly discussed it. Alan worried about the obligation to participate that he already had, having applied for a solo performance. But then Anastasia approached him. He asked about her plans for the festival and felt embarrassed when she mentioned she had already applied solo. Anastasia suggested helping the crown prince understand the situation and wished him luck before leaving. Alan was torn between contacting Amy or the Anastasia group. He remained intrigued by their conversation, so he activated his invisibility ability and hid in the room where they were discussing the festival plans, hoping all attention would be on Amy, while Anastasia seemed almost invisible. Everyone was thirsty, and Amy arrogantly asked Anastasia to bring her tea. Carl shouted that she wasn't busy. Alan was slightly annoyed, but Anastasia calmly agreed. The group decided to have tea in the garden, but Amy chose to stay in the room with Anastasia. Suddenly, Amy started questioning why Anastasia was there since she wasn't doing anything. Anastasia coldly remained silent, pushing Amy to do it herself. She suggested that the crown prince deserved a beautiful princess, not someone like Anastasia. These words made her angry, and Amy acted like a clown, telling her to smile. Anastasia was not pleased with Amy's smile. Her behavior reaffirmed that her status was still higher. Amy's different from the game characters, insists that they all do so, Anastasia replied, increasingly angry that Amy's behavior was not underestimated. At that time, Amy portrayed herself as a victim, and the crown prince suddenly opened Amy's room door. Manipulative behavior left Anastasia shocked as she tried to explain, but the crown prince refused to listen, ordering Anastasia to clean the room, and she obeyed without a word. Gathering her things and leaving the office in the corridor, Amy taunted Anastasia, suggesting she had stolen her fiancé. This was the climax of Anastasia trying to hit Amy at that point. Alan seemed to pretend not to witness the confrontation, asking for forgiveness and quickly leaving the scene. Anastasia was surprised to see Alan there, returning with his calmness. He responded to Amy's dignity, stating that Amy was not worthy of the crown prince, and then he left Amy alone in the corridor, very upset, because Alan, like a gang, kept interfering in her affairs. After hearing everything, Alan reached a significant realization, closing that Amy, like he had been reborn and aimed to create an inverted Herm, stuck to the main plot of the game, despite knowing about his potential. Alan was determined to stop her. It would be very easy to kill her if only he had the power of foresight. He would do it. Now let's delve into the story from the perspective of our heroine. We will start with Amy, the main character in this world. Amy was born into a poor family where she had to endure hardships. However, after being hit by a memory that brought her back to reality, she realized that this world is just a game of autumn that she used to play in her previous life. Even though she died in a high school state due to an incident she did not experience, regretting her sad life and happy to be reborn, in the end, she found out that she was a bastard child of a nobleman. Both her and her mother were brought to the Breeze Baron family. For an otaku like her who played the forbidden game easily, and she finally entered Anastasia High School. She learned that the commoners ranked second and third in the school. Surprising Anastasia, she asked her assistant to gather information about them. In second place is Alan, who grew up in a poor family but graduated from public school with perfect grades. He is also an adventurer. The second is Amy, lucky because her father turns out to be a nobleman, blessed with special treatment. Anastasia decides to watch over them, believing that both can receive support from the opposition faction in the office. On the first day, she sees Alan, who looks ordinary to her. She needs to be careful with him. Amy enters the class and catches the attention of the crowd in second place. She hasn't seen him before. On the first day, she decides to greet and chat with him, hoping he will fall in love with her. She realizes he's just ordinary, so she decides to ignore him. Anastasia's main concern is the third student, Amy, who is flirting with her fiancé, the crown prince. Anastasia is worried this could cause chaos in the kingdom as a noble responsible for it. She wants Carl to understand everything except Amy. whose low-level healing abilities require a lot of time. But they catch the attention of the prince. Carl trusts her too much, and Amy wins the hearts of all the main men in the game, ignoring the intimidation from other characters. But Anastasia, who has everything perfect, is annoyed with her. Anastasia is happy that at the end of her life, Anastasia will end very. Anastasia sees that she is in second place according to the results of the last exam, feels defeated in front of Alan. She focuses on studying during the ruins of the Amy expedition, finds that her assessment scroll is missing. She thought there was no scroll like that in this world with a difficult level. But for experienced otaku like her, it's not a problem. Anastasia is happy she invites Alan as their guide, and is amazed by his knowledge and hard work noticed by Amy. Anastasia and the common people get along well and want to make him a loyal ally. Anastasia thinks of inviting him to the team for the cultural festival, but Alan refuses. In the discussion room, Amy makes Anastasia angry, but the crown prince appears disrupting her plans after that, scaring Anastasia. She leaves with Amy, leaving Anastasia with a sense of satisfaction. She doesn't give up easily. When trying to provoke Amy again, Alan appears and prevents a disaster that makes Amy angry. Anastasia gathers her thoughts and stands with dignity until the end. Anastasia remembers when she was saved with sadness.